This podcast is brought to you by Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. Check out Simpson Motorcycle Helmets at simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com, as well as their Instagram at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. You guys know I rock them all the time. Got a couple old ones that are now sitting on my shelf at the house to remember all the awesome rides I took with them, and just picked up a Ghost Bandit carbon and a Mod Bandit carbon, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but they're coming out with a Outlaw carbon next year. So I'm really looking forward to all that. They're probably going to be pissed at me for saying that, but welcome, guys. You're welcome. Anyway, check them all out. Simpson Motorcycle Helmets everywhere, and rock that shit, homie. Lexan Moto, the shit's out. The FT4 Pro, order it, pick it up. They released it. It's ready for you. Check them out. Also got the wireless chargers, which will work with any phone with wireless charging capabilities. It will mount to any RAM X mount phone mount on the market. All these products were designed to meet the demands of the consumers in the industry. Check them out. Lexan Moto will continue to build products the rider wants and needs, and all backed by amazing warranties and some of the best customer service in the industry. Check out LexanMotorcycle.com and use FastLife at checkout for 15% off, and give the team a follow on Instagram at Lexan Moto. ThunderMax Performance ECMs is designed specifically for EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which is a standalone tuning system that utilizes proprietary auto-tune technology with wideband oxygen sensors to deliver unmatched performance and rideability. I am also running their oil cooler fan, which if you have a 2017 and up touring model, you can as well. It's a small price for a noticeable difference in operating temperatures on the big-ass M8 motors. Installs under 20 minutes and pairs right up with the ThunderMax ECM. Also, they did a soft release of the Command Center, which mounts on your handlebars and gives you engine vitals as well as RPMs and speed. So it's a pretty good deal, especially if you're running T-bars on these baggers and shit and you can't really see your gauges. Instead of having all these gauges up in the air blocking wind and catching bugs, just put this little screen right there next to your handlebar or your grip, your clutch perch, and you're fucking solid, dude. It's ready. Get it. Check them out. ShopTmax.com and ThunderMax EFI on Instagram. John Jessup's Team Dream Rides. You guys already know he's the guy to go to in NorCal. He's got it all. Bike tuning, bike sales, parts, bike builds. Like, this dude's got you covered on all fronts and everything you need from a motorcycle shop. And to top it all off, TeamDreamRides.com is the place to go for a lot of your parts needs all over the country. You don't have to live in Stockton. Who wants to, right? You can be in Iowa. There you go again, Iowa. You can be in Iowa and order whatever you need for your bike on TeamDreamRides.com. He's bringing on new products regularly and offering 100 days same as cash financing on all products. All you need is a job and a bank account. And don't forget to use offer code FASTLIFE at checkout for 10% off. And give John and the team a follow on Instagram at DreamRidesJohn. Paint Huffer Metal Flake is the industry standard when it comes to flake. Check out painthuffer.com and use FastLife12 at checkout for 10% off. Follow Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram and stay up to date on product releases and the works of art produced by many artists from around the globe. Also, October 24th, tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Paint Huffer will be live on Instagram with a handful of Team Paint Huffer members rocking demos of all sorts. So check it out. The last one was pretty badass. This one's going to be even better. So check them out. Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram. Big Bear Performance is the go-to for high-quality performance products for your FXR, Dyna, Softail, and performance baggers needs, along with being the industry leader in Olin suspension and sales and service and tuning. I put too many ands in there. Check out bigbearperformance.com, and you can always give Kevin a call and get the info and answers for your motorcycle's upgrades at 909-479-7788. bigbearperformance.com and Big Bear Choppers on Instagram. Here we are, guys. Episode 101. I hope you guys enjoyed the last one. That was really rad. A really fun time having all my boys on there. This one I'm actually really excited to bring out, man. Yaffe, you know, one of the OGs in this motorcycle customizing world, from all that you'll hear on this podcast. But anyway, I'm really thankful for Yaffe and this whole team out there in Phoenix. They were very hospitable, making it very comfortable and easy to do this podcast with them. So thank you guys. And I also want to thank all you new Patreon guys that's been coming on this month. It's been a huge jump and it's a big help. And if you're following the Instagram stories I've been putting out today, then you see all this computer shit I'm buying to do this live video stuff, which I thought we had the last stuff. I thought we had everything we needed. And turns out it's just it's like drag racing. It's like you just keep spending money at shit. You just throw money at it. That's all you're doing, just constantly. So we just got another computer ordered, like a gaming desktop that's got all this badass graphic cards and CPU and all this kind of nerdy shit that I don't know anything about. And then so after SEMA, I think that we'll be able to really legitimately do some actual live streaming video content, whether it's just a podcast or even doing some live video streaming of us doing some paint work. So anyways, look forward to that. And thank you guys for Patreon support, because that is what's helping us do this stuff. So if you are interested in helping out, go to fastlifegarage.com. On the front page, there's a link to Patreon, and you can become a donor. It's $1, a minimum of $1. You know, you can do whatever you feel comfortable with, but it all helps, and it goes to keeping this podcast growing and going. So thank you guys. And like I said, once again, this podcast is with Yaffe. Very good time talking with this guy. Really didn't have, I could have sat there for another 2 hours listening to him just tell me stories about just the life that he's lived doing this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Here you go, guys. Paul Yaffe.
Hey, guys. You ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Yeah, man, like I said, we're from Dallas, so, you know, not too far away, but,
right.
You know.
That's a drive.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just flew out here, so it was a lot easier. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why. God, I also thought Phil said you guys were riding out here.
Well, yeah, Phil, he brought that up a while ago. He was like, man, I can't believe you rode out here. I was like, man, this time I didn't. I rode up here in February.
Got it. It's not a bad, it's not a great ride.
Yeah.
I've done Dallas and Galveston, and I do El Paso all the time. I have family in El Paso.
Nice.
But, you know, heading out to 10, there ain't much.
Yeah.
Much out there. It's a lot of flat, right? I hate riding through Texas.
Yeah, dude, it's the worst. But you know what's crazy? I'm actually going to be riding back out here again in November.
Oh, got it.
So
what's in November?
Well, I need to do another run of podcasts.
Oh, got it.
I really enjoy doing cross country riding, and right now I'm
Me too.
healthy.
It's all the riding I do.
Yeah. I'm healthy enough to where I can like stand to be on a bike for 800 miles a day for a couple of days in a row. So I haven't been to San Diego yet with the podcast, so we're gonna go out there and reach out to some brands and
some nice riding out there.
Yeah, and then my wife's from LA, so we have we have family out there, so we'll go to LA, do some more podcasts. We got places to stay everywhere and whatnot, so it works out well. But hey, we're rolling now, so Paul Yaffe, fucking
how are you?
The man. 30 years in business, man.
Almost. I think next year is 30
years. Well, I was looking at the Instagram, and we were I was talking with a friend. We're like, dude, like, is it almost 30 years? I mean, it's been insane.
We're rounding up, but yeah, we're just about there. It's 1991. So,
fuck, man, that is insane.
So 2020 we'll roll through. 2021 will be our 30-year anniversary.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, the 90s we know they took place, right?
Right.
But there was not this form of like, not the TV media from the 2000s, and not the Instagram and the Facebook media of today. So it's like to remember some of these events and stories, we have to go back and flip through these old hot bikes and easy riders and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was no internet even. There was nothing. Yeah. There was nothing going on. If you wanted to promote yourself, you had to stick your bike in the back of your truck and drive it to a show, or when back then these show bikes we're talking about, nobody's riding them cross country. Mm-hmm. Although I'll take it back. So I mean, I've built a bike and ridden it to Sturgis every year for the past 34 years, I think, since 1986. So I was riding show bikes to Sturgis then and stuff. But if you're going to compete with something, you don't want to drag some full polished, full chrome, crazy
get
thing
chipped up and everything
to the World of Wheels show in Reno or whatever. Exactly. You got to put it in a. I didn't even own a trailer. Yeah. So my first. God, my first 6 or 8 trips to Sturgis, I slept in a hammock. I couldn't afford a hotel room.
But that's the badass stories about it, man.
Yeah, that's also my fondest memories.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, before it got commercial, those are definitely my fondest memories. Is when I wasn't going there for business. I was just going there because I wanted to go.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I could see that, and I could see how kind of skipping forward, but the toll of like carrying the weight of being the like people like, I'm trying to word this right, but you kind of like are part of a lot of the innovation now in our industry and have been for the last 20 years. So that's a lot of burden. You don't get to just be Paul Yaffe in a hammock having a good time at Sturgis anymore.
I think that's a choice.
Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, you don't have to take on a burden or whatever. Maybe it's just how you look at it. I don't stress about it.
Well, with great power
I think I was probably
great.
more influential.
Yeah.
I don't want to say a decade ago, because I mean, the Bagger Nation thing's been super hot, but it's calming down, and now we're kind of moving into the performance thing a little bit, and where baggers are getting smaller, which is fine with me. That's the way I like them. So I was never a big wheel. 26 was about it for me. So. But anyway, that's another story. But we like to think we're still innovative.
Yeah.
I don't, and we've got a few tricks up our sleeves too. We got some cool stuff we're working on, and we'll see what happens. I'm not sure the direction those things are going to go, but yeah, we'll see. It's never intentional. It's always an accident.
Yeah. What was like, in the 80s, there had to be this like chain of events that kind of inspired you to make it it's all good. And there had to be a chain of events that inspired you to go into business. So like, what was pre-business Yaffe life? You know what I mean? In motorcycling.
So motorcycles for me before I decided I was going to make a living at it.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting question. Well, first it was a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, before that it was my dad had bikes and I'd steal his bikes when he'd go to work. Right. That's how I got into motorcycles, or some junior high school buddy of mine who I was hanging out at his house after school had an old Yamaha 80-year dirt bike, sitting in the garage that hadn't run in 10 years. So I was like, hey, if I can get that running, can I ride it?
Yeah.
Sure you can. And I didn't know how to get it running, but I knew people to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
So my, the hoodlums that lived in my neighborhood all rode motorcycles, right? So like kind of, I don't know, I want to say it was biker gangs, but so I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, North Hollywood, which was kind of the mecca of customs. And for a kid to grow up there, you've got, you ride by George Barris's shop, all the time, right? It's right there. It's right on Lancashire. It's right around the corner from my house, right? So Jammer Cycle Parts was at that time was a chopper shop, right? It wasn't even Jammer Cycle. Then it was just, guys were making frames, and they're making multi-cross sissy bars, and and putting Hondas in crazy choppers, and but that's and we would go sit on our bicycles out in front of their shop and their showroom and dream about how we could stick that stuff on our bicycles, right? We wouldn't even have driver's license, right? So
what I'm obviously that generation there of that world. I mean, I was fucking looking at He-Man cartoons around this time. You know what I mean?
Got it, right?
So. But trying to go back and look and try to understand like the culture of our motorcycle industry over the last 40 years, it feels like a lot of the things that started to take place in the early 90s when it got more commercialized and less outlaw, kind of like, it got more for the working lawyer man, and it just appealed to a different crowd, it seemed.
That had a lot to do with the introduction of the Evolution motor.
Okay.
It had to do with Harley Davidson changing, right? Buying their company back from AMF. Inventing or introducing the Evolution motor, introducing the Softail, right? Introducing, the FXR was around, but it wasn't a 90s FXR, right? It wasn't the FXLRC or the, so those kinds of bikes, and at this time, I don't even know how old I am, but so my first Harley was an 85 Sportster, and it was an Evo motor. That was my first bike that I bought from a dealership, right? And And then the crowd in LA that I was involved with was, bike nights on Thursday or Friday nights in Hollywood were 1,000 bikes would show up, right? At some nightclub, whoever was putting it on, and would take over the city, right, kind of thing, or the area we were in, I remember bike night at All American Burger in Westwood, and oh my God, hundreds and hundreds of motorcycles. Wow. The scene was vibrant and cool, and this was before some of these things were before I even had a driver's license. I would take my skateboard. I lived in North Hollywood. I would ride my skateboard to the bus, get on the bus. I'd take it over the 405 into Westwood, and then ride my skateboard to the bike night. Which there were some cars and stuff there too, but it was really a bike night. It was just kind of a custom hangout, cruise night, whatever you want to call it. Van Nuys Boulevard was hopping then, Tuesdays on Van Nuys Boulevard was it, right? And I would just go and bug people, right? I would just go carry my skateboard around and, look at stuff and ask somebody how they did this and that. I don't even know why I was curious about it necessarily, but I totally was. I was enthralled with it, right? So before I ever even owned motorcycles, I always fast. The kids in my neighborhood where I grew up as a kid, the older kids that I looked up to were always working on their dirt bikes or trying to stuff a V8 in a Vega or doing whatever they were doing, right, in their garage. Those kids were just starting into high school, right, and that was their link to girls, right, was all that stuff,
they need
right?
something to make them cool.
That was it, right? Yeah. So, we were all bell bottoms and velour and OP shorts and whatever it was, right? We all had long hair and, it was a big surfer thing. We all rode skateboards. We all hunted pools. Yeah. That's just what we did. Dogtown was in full swing, and skateboard magazines were crazy. That's what I grew up in.
It seems like such a vibrant time to be in the LA to grow up there.
It couldn't help but seep into your veins. There was a whole Chicano movement. This, in being in the San Fernando Valley in San Fernando, there was a whole lowrider scene that I was super influenced by that I just love. I still think I'm part Mexican in me somewhere, which is fine with me. Yeah, I'm still loving my lowrider cars and
that's
stuff.
Awesome, man.
But that's just stuff that I love.
So what were some of the the other thing is the FXR has that there's a few kind of styles of FXRs, and some of us newer guys or me and some of my FXR buddies we kind of refer to some of the style of FXRs as the hamster pro street style.
Absolutely, right. That's absolutely a hamster style, and I call it that. Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah, and that's my influence. So I remember. Before, again, I used to go to Westworld, and so the guys I would see there, and you might not even know some of these names, but Billy Westbrook hung out there.
I heard of him.
Probably my largest influence in my life, next to Arlen Ness. Him and two would share the wealth of who inspired me, right? And Billy's, I could have a whole interview with you about Billy Westbrook, and his influence, amazing craftsman.
Yeah.
Grady Pfeiffer, who's still around the industry today and has GH Marketing and works for tons of companies and is very involved in the industry. But at the time, he was a pure-blooded hot rod motorcycle, and he was a hamster, right? Which I didn't even know what a hamster was. Yeah. Gene Chikove, who was a hairstylist, who they made the movie Shampoo about, that Warren Beatty started. Warren Beatty played Gene Chikove in that movie. Gene was a hamster. Alan Deshawn, who was a businessman but had a taste for custom motorcycles and always had these killer bikes. And I could go on and on with these names of guys that were at these events that I would bug. Like I said, holding my skateboard, So I ride with all these guys now to Sturgis, right? Nice. So now I'm a hamster. It's been decades. I don't even know how long I've been a hamster, but then I didn't even know what that was. But this was all grassroots, these guys starting back then. And I was just a fan of the bikes, So
what is to us on the outside looking in, me and my generation of friends, we look at the hamsters as the Illuminati of the goddamn motorcycle world. So
that's funny.
It's kind of this kind of allure. I mean, I know Rick Fairless very well.
Sure.
But what is it? Is it just a?
There's a long story of how it started, but it started as a joke. Yeah. And it basically started as an insult, right? So the founders of the hamsters, if you want to call it, the beginning seven was, Donnie Smith, Dave Perowitz, Arlen Ness, Barry Cooney, Steve Ellington, Ed Kerr, Jimmy Leahy, and Dave's girlfriend at the time, Susan Perowitz, who wasn't Susan Perowitz at the time, it was his girlfriend before it was his wife. They were all in Daytona hanging out. right at a hotel, right?
Yeah.
They were just in Daytona Bike Week in the early 70s, right? So a bunch of the guys got on their bikes and rode into town, go party. They left Jimmy and Susan at the hotel, and they were stuck. They didn't have any money. They couldn't get into town, right? And so they started drinking, got pissed at all the guys who left them. And so Jimmy took a stack of paper plates and decided that these guys were a bunch of hamsters, right? Which is an insult, right? And he drew it as an insult, right? And he drew this hamster head, and he made Hamsters MC, right? He made like a bottom rocker and a top rocker, Hamsters USA.
Yeah.
And he assigned Arlen and Donnie and all the guys that were there different. One was the president, one was the vice president, secretary, treasurer, sergeant at arms, whatever.
That's crazy.
And he went and stuck them all in their doors of their rooms.
Wow.
Right? So when they got home, all these hamster plates were hanging on it, right? And he informed these guys that they were a bunch of hamsters, right? But he meant it like, your guys are a bunch of rodents. You're not worth, whatever.
Yeah.
So
the insult of that.
Susan thought it was really cool, right? And the next time these guys met a few months later, she took that paper plate and made art out of it and made yellow T-shirts for the guys, right? And gave them all these yellow T-shirts and said, here you go. Now you're Hamsters USA, right? It was really her doing. She's really the inventor of it, right?
Yeah.
So and when I see her, I always feel like I'm standing in front of a legend or something, right? So and her and Dave Long, life has passed and they're not together anymore. But I bumped into her in Minneapolis last year and
Nice.
just had an hour-long conversation with her, and it was great to see her. But
So it started around like the early 70s?
yeah, 71 I think is their official date. So we just celebrated our 40, so 81, 91, 2001.
Coming up on 40. Or no, that'd be
No,
50.
we just did our 40, so maybe it's 78. Maybe I'm thinking 71, 78. Maybe because 78 would be better because then 19 would be our 40. So so it's probably 78 is when it started. So
That's crazy.
And then it just kind of been a thing where some guys hung out, and it wasn't really a club, and it's not an MC at all. Right? It's just a group of guys, and there is a board now, and you have to get sponsored to be a hamster, and there's all these. It was funny we have this 40th anniversary book that we made, and it's all the legends all the rumors of what is hamsters are. So everybody put in their own, the best ones, right?
Yeah.
And there's the front 2 pages of it are all the urban myths of hamsters. Like you got to be a millionaire, you got to kill somebody, you got to. There's all these crazy things, that are, and none of them are true.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to hang around and be into custom motorcycles, and probably helps you to deal with the group if you're an alcoholic, but. Other than that, it's really just a bunch of guys who like to build custom motorcycles.
That's really cool to clear all this up because, like I said, a lot of even the newest generation that's been coming into motorcycling over the last 5 years, so disconnected from even the chopper era of the early 2000s and late 90s. So it's like, but they see these things. They see you guys at Sturgis, and they hear, they see them at all the bike weeks and the bike events all over the country, and they're like.
It's a bunch of old gray-haired guys, right? And we have some. I mean, we bring in new hamsters every year at the banquet in Sturgis. There's guys that they go before the board, they get sponsored, they hang out for a few years, and if you're a nice guy and you're enhancing the club by with custom motorcycles or your patronage and your support and your membership and you're part of the group. Eventually, you're going to get a shirt. That's it. And there are dues.
Yeah.
$300. So you have to have $300 a year to be a hamster. That is the financial. It's far from a millionaire, but that is the deal. But we love everybody hanging around.
Yeah.
So I've gotten very involved with the organization. We do some great charity work. We go on great rides. I ride to Sturgis with a group of 100 guys every year. It's just a blast.
Sounds like a blast in theory.
Yeah.
But thinking of riding with 100 people and doing that.
It's not organized like that. The hamsters are terribly unorganized.
Okay.
So there's a list of the hotels, and that's really it.
Yeah.
Right? There's not even a route from one hotel to the other. When you leave, everybody kind of falls into little cliques.
Yeah.
The fast guys, the slow guys, the want to stop at every bar guys, the lunch guys, the whatever it is, and they all fall into their little cliques. So you'll see a group of 10 guys riding, and you'll cross them during the day, right? You go, hey, wait,
what's up?
But you're all going to the same place that night, right?
Nice.
So, then we find hotels that have a nice bar and a restaurant where we can take overnight, where we can all gather, right, hang out. But during the day, it's usually like my little group. There's probably 5 or 6
Nice. That's
guys, and
comfortable.
we're the fast guys. Yeah, we're the guys who just want to do 120 miles an hour through every canyon. And,
Nice.
and a lot of guys don't want to do that. We totally get it, and I would never suggest that anybody who's
right out
not
of your
comfortable
limit.
doing that do that. And if I'm with guys, even if I'm riding in a group with guys who don't want to do that, I just know that as I start rolling into a canyon, I'm gonna go. You put some good turns in front of me, it's just gonna happen.
You're gonna do
but
it.
everybody that's riding with me knows that I'll be sitting on the other side of that canyon waiting for them when the canyon's done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's just the way I am. So everybody will be like, "Yep, see ya."
That's wild.
Yeah.
So basically, so you kind of do this transition. You get into bikes. You're chasing these bikers and hot rodders into these events and stuff all over LA and shit. What, like, now you're here, like, did you decide to start Yaffe, was that there or was it here? Where did
I would work on my bikes. I was always had a mechanical aptitude, so I made all kinds of stuff. I started off designing shoes, women's shoes. That was my first exercise in design, right?
Yeah.
And that was a total accident. Fell into this thing and ended up first designing, believe it or not, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders boots. That was the first thing I ever designed. Actually, it wasn't the first thing I ever designed, but it was the first shoe I ever designed. And as far as I know, they still use them today. So,
for real? That's wild.
Yeah, still use them today. But
I could never look at them the same again.
right, exactly. So lots of people made fun of me over the years for that. But I founded a company called Zodiac Shoes, which a lot of guys my age wore. It was a big shoe brand. It turned into a really big shoe brand. That was my first taste into business and design and motorcycles. Through all that was a hobby of mine.
Okay.
I lost it got very, it turned into a big fashion industry kind of business, which didn't suit me at all. And I pulled away from it for a lot of reasons and ended up walking away from it. Worked for a while, still in the shoe business, but just worked managing some higher end shoe places in the LA area, worked at night as a bouncer, so I could work during the day on motorcycles. It's what I love to do.
Yeah.
So, but it was a hobby, and I got that Sportster, I customized it. A couple of friends that I rode with on weekends said, "Hey, I love what you did there. Can you do that to my bike?" So I ended up with a couple of bikes in my parents' garage. I still live with my parents at the time. I'm 17 years old or something, so I did some of that, and I quickly kind of found out that I bought a little milling table that I had set up on my Steers drill press.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like plus or minus 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
But I was making billet mirrors and little billet side mount license plates, and we had police FXRs were everywhere because the California Highway Patrol used them, and they decommissioned them between 25 and 50,000 miles. That's still a great bike.
Yeah.
And we would buy them all the time and rip all the police shit off of them and turn them into cool hamster bikes or hot rods or whatever we felt like doing. So my FXRs always had a little quarter fairing on the front of them. I like that little quarter fairing. And billet was just barely starting, but it started as a hobby, and then I quickly realized that I did not have the mechanical foundation to work on motorcycles. I didn't know enough about four-stroke engine theory. I didn't know enough about I was making mistakes. I'd go out and have some calipers chrome plated, and I'd forget to put the O-rings back on the guide pins, right? The calipers would be slopping around on the, I didn't know. I probably didn't even know the O-rings were probably in them when I sent them to the plater. It just got melted out, and I never even knew they were in there, that kind of stuff, right? So didn't kill anybody, thank God, but so I worked for this shop called Showcase Cycles on Melrose in Hollywood, and I worked for them. When I say I kind of helped with the parts counter, I swept up, I changed oil. The two guys that worked in the back, Rob Reinhold and Willie Heiglin, were the two mechanics that worked there. And I remember them both. I'm still friends with Rob today. He's working in Louisiana as a Harley tech still, and I still bump into him at shows and stuff. And he remembers, and I was that snot-nosed kid cleaning up his oil pans and stuff. And Willie, I've lost touch with. I don't know what he's doing. But I asked Willie, actually, how he learned everything. And he said, I went to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. You should go there. If you want to learn all this stuff, enroll in that school. It's a great school. So I flew here. That's where the campus is here. And I flew here and enrolled. Yeah, basically I enrolled. I packed up a U-Haul, got my girlfriend and my cat, moved here, right? And just kind of on a whim. And next thing you know, I was living here, going to MMI. Tried to get a job here, couldn't get a job here. This town was in a huge recession at the time. This is 88, right? So couldn't get a job. So I ended up opening a little bike shop in my garage, a Paul Yaffe cycle shop. Somewhere I still have that card, right? I had it printed at the Kinko's or whatever. And Jack, my service manager, who was my partner, me and him had partnered up at school. You always partner up when you go to the school. You go through your clinics together with a second, right? And me and Jack have been together ever since. He's still running the whole. He's running my whole right side brain, right? It's Jack. So, but we started working on bikes in my garage and then going to school all day. We would fly once a month. We would fly to LA and bid on some highway patrol bikes at the auction. We'd always win a couple, and we'd ride them back through the desert in the middle of the night. And we'd get back just as the sun was coming up. We'd get back to the garage, park them, run to school, and be there at 7 o'clock. And we'd go to school all day, get off, come back. We'd nap for an hour, jump right on the bikes, start working on bikes again.
That's cool.
And so we kind of learned, as we went, and we were, constantly. I'm still learning, but that's how it went, and nothing was going on in the motorcycle scene here. There was what the motorcycle scene here was not like it was in LA. There was nothing. Custom bikes were kind of unheard of. I met a couple guys through these. So what Jack and I would do is we'd take these highway patrol bikes and turn them into customs and sell them in the paper, right? Yeah. And that's how we put ourselves through school because we couldn't find work. And so we met some guys. I got some money together through these guys to invest, and as we started to end our school in '91, we opened a shop, actually literally 2 blocks down the street from here.
Wow.
A 900 square foot little shop called American Legend Motorcycle Company. And just doing service work, chrome exchange, that was a big thing then. Yeah. Everybody was, chroming their swing arms and chroming their fork legs and doing little motor hop-ups on their Evos. It was Andrews cams and mill a little off the heads and, adjustable push rods and your little HI4 ignitions. It was just like the kit. It was the kit, right? Yeah. It was the kit that everybody used, right? So, and we're just doing, and we were busy. Yeah, we had a busy, thriving shop, 40, 50 bikes lined up in the back, and I had a couple of techs working. I had no idea how to run a business, and winging it, just going. Yeah,
that's crazy.
And that's how it started. And I always had some custom stuff I was working on, and so I had this FXR chassis that I had been working on for years, and it was sitting in the corner, and it was all stretched tank and molded together, and for at that time the thing was crazy looking, right? It was just how I saw it, right? Owen, one of the guys that was my original, I had 2 partners, Greg and Owen, when I first opened the first shop. Owen was there one day. He lived in LA, and he was there, and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just FXR. I said, I could never afford to finish that. And, I said, it's just going to be way too expensive. And he said, "Dude, you need to finish that." He's like, "So, here's my checkbook, finish it." Yeah. He goes, that needs to come to fruition. So he backed that bike and let me do whatever I wanted to. And so we made, just so much crazy billet shit on that bike. And now we had a little mill. And my first machinist, Joel Knoll, who's passed since, but he was the guy who introduced me to manual mills and lathes and how to do machine work. And he was a journeyman pipe and tool maker for this big piping company, Amron, across the valley here. And he would come over every night. We'd work all night on. Dude, it was. If I didn't need sleep, it would have been fine to be 24/7, 7 days a week. Motorcycles would have been fine with me. I didn't need anything else. I had to eat, right? But it's just the way it was. I was obsessed.
Do you feel like it was a lot of passion-driven stuff, though?
It's all it was. It was all it was. It wasn't about money. Yeah. It wasn't about business. That was just, I had to work doing it because I didn't want to get a job that would take me away from it. You know what I mean? So that was all.
Did you ever in those early days, or even throughout this whole career, did you ever have times where you doubted the decision to stay in this stuff, or
never I never doubted it. There was times where we thought it was going to end. There was times where we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and where it wasn't working because it wasn't a financial thing. It wasn't a common sense. You didn't look at it and go, "Hey, does this project make financial sense?"
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You'd sell the dogs food if you had to pay for the spokes you needed for that wheel or whatever. It just didn't. You never thought about it that way. Lots of good girlfriends left, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It just, but again, it didn't matter because that's all that was important. It was the next bike, the next thing. That it was just, for me, it was, all consuming, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
So how was the transition through the 90s as the chopper craze boomed,
right?
And became such a commercial commodity? Like, how was that transition into that? Because you're very respected even amongst the other people I've been talking to here with the innovations that you were doing in that world as well.
And it was never, I'll tell you, it was just so I don't know if I really have a style. My bikes are all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of weird stuff, and so different things attracted me, or I thought, oh, that's cool, and this is how I would do it if I was going to do it,
mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. So, and there's certainly all kinds of people that influence you, but as the '90s came in, and I was doing long, low, stretched out. When I was doing custom bikes, Atlas came out with the 180 tire soft tail frame.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, now we had ground up customs to build, right? And that was a whole new world,
mm-hmm.
right? So thank God, Jack is an electronic guru and wires nuclear warheads and stuff like that. So, but he was a huge part of me getting through electrical theory at MMI.
Nice.
And by the time we got out on the other side of those courses, I could draw schematics. I totally understood everything electrical. I could just sit down here right now and draw you a whole wiring harness for a custom bike and say, there, it's what you need to do.
Wow.
So, but those are skills that I picked up through that school and picked up through my relationship with Jack. And so and that's something where a lot of guys suffer. Right? They just don't get it. Right?
You've always heard horror stories about, oh man, I got to find somebody to wire this bike.
Right. So I would be that guy.
That would be the thing on the Discovery Channel.
Right.
They'd use that as like a dramatic sign. Like,
right. The smoke's coming out.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever. So, right. So that wasn't a problem for us. Yeah. So, and again, we were carbureted bikes. We hadn't gotten into fuel injection yet. So on.
They weren't as wiring wasn't as encompassing as it's got to now.
Believe it or not, what they're doing now is the best stuff ever. And if you understand what it's doing, it's like, for me, it scares most guys. I hear guys all the time talking about taking off their fuel injection and putting carburetors on. I'm like, why do you do that? Well, because it's easier, and I want to go. So I don't. Yeah. But I'm like, oh no! If you took the time to understand this is so much simpler. It's so easy, and it's great, and it works fantastic.
The wiring system we've had for the last couple of years of until they came to the CAN bus system.
Right.
That has been confusing for me. Like I still can navigate the waters of it, but it's like, fuck, man. So this wire does how many things?
Right. And that's really what CAN bus is. It's one wire can do the function of 5. So you're getting into millivolts rather than just 12 volts. And your amperage. And it's just understanding the flow. It's all water, right? Mm-hmm. It's all water and how it flows, right? Yeah. So that's so it really is very simple and very safe and very hard to destroy. So. Anyway, but the ground up stuff was happening. I kind of got lost where we
were kind of talking about the transition into the chopper craze.
Oh, so we were doing a lot of magazine bikes, doing a lot of shows. I've always wanted to be manufacturer, so manufacturing has always fascinated me, how things were made. Mm-hmm. So I've always thought, and I've always felt that was the difference between me and a lot of other guys, that I could think of something and then I'll go make it. Right. Somebody else might say, "Oh, I need this," and then they have to go in a catalog and find it. It has to exist, right, for them to build their bike. I don't need that. I'll go right down to the machine and spend all night making a, $500 cable clamp. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's not the $500.
Yeah.
It's that it's exactly what it needs to be. It's not about the time or the energy, right? It's only $1 worth of aluminum, right? So what I'm thinking about, what you've got me thinking when you talk about the choppers and stuff, I remember spending some time with Pat Kennedy when he moved here to Tombstone, right? Mm-hmm. And super nice guy, really cool dude, and kind of really understood rake and trail, and really understood this kind of Swedish raking your frame and then correcting your trail with raking your trees. And he had this adjustable, super dangerous, crazy shim adjustable set of triple trees that he made at the time, right? So I wanted to use them on a bike, and I wanted to do something low. I just wanted it longer, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted which I guess is referred to as Swedish style. It's not a tall chopper; it's a low chopper, right? So I met Pat, and he really helped me grasp the rake and trail, right, and understand that the way I understand electricity. So another huge advantage for me as we started. So now we're talking about long bikes, and I remember calling Howard Kelly at Hot Bike, who was the editor of Hot Bike Magazine, and saying, dude, I think this chopper thing, I think it's going to be this upcoming thing, and I want to build a couple of these long choppers, one with a Springer, one with a hydraulic front end, and if I do it, I need to build these 2 bikes, and I want to do these 2 exercises, but will you do a whole bunch of stories on them? Will you talk about choppers, and then we're going to do this whole thing? And so he said, oh yeah, I'll totally cover you on that. So I called a couple of good customers, and that's another thing. I've always been so lucky that I have amazing customers, kind of patrons almost of my art, that I could call somebody and say, hey, I'm going to build a bike. It's going to be really cool, and you're going to want it. Yeah, and it's going to be a $60,000 bike, but give me 40 grand. Yeah, and in a year I'll call you and it'll be your bike. Just underwrite it for me. Oh yeah, perfect. I've always had that which is a lot of guys don't get that. Right?
You got to be an honest business guy to get that.
It was amazing. So I called up 2 customers, pre-sold the choppers, right? So I had them underwritten, so now I had the money to do it, and I just started 2 different, a tale of 2 choppers, right? Is what I think the articles ended up being, and then Howard did a bunch of articles on Hot Bike about Choppers 101 and the education of rake and trail, and so here we were doing these long bikes that just nobody was doing, right? And so we finished them both, and they were okay. They were cool bikes for the time. Nothing like what ended up becoming, right? But we got a great education, and everybody loved them, and this kind of really took off. It's kind of like when we were doing baggers, and all of a sudden. Yeah. Everything took off, although, I've got a bagger story for you later, but so we did those. The chopper thing really, I'm not going to say that we invented it, but we certainly kind of brought it mainstream and got everybody's attention going with all these magazine articles and stuff. And then I never really wanted to get into the frame manufacturing business, but around that time, a company from Canada called me, and they had a rubber-mounted Softail frame. That was always the problem with the Softails. It buzzed like crazy with the Evo motors, right? Shake your teeth out. Yeah. So they had this rubber-mounted Softail chassis. They flew me to Canada and wanted me to experience it and ride it and see if I had an interest in bringing it to an American market, right? Yeah. So I went there, and it was okay. We made some changes to it and stuff. It was good looking. But while I was there, these guys had this amazing manufacturing plant, right? They actually made tool and die for food manufacturers. Okay. Like they would make a machine that made Cheerios. It would make the little O's, right? Yeah. But that's a big machine that makes those little O's. You don't realize everything that goes into that. And the joke was always that one day we were going to make Yaffe O's. And it was going to be all these bike parts in the cereal, and you could build a chopper in your milk while you were... We never did, but it was a joke that we were going to... So one of the guys there was an expert in urethanes and durometers and different compounds of rubber, and the other guy was just a great steel manufacturer, really understood how to make stuff. And what I told them is I said, hey, I'll help you with this frame, and we'll develop it, and we'll continue to do it, but I could really use just a regular Softail frame right now because this chopper thing's hitting, and if I had tanks and fenders and frames and I could come out with this kind of rolling chassis, right, that, it would be huge. Yeah. So we jumped right on that. I mean, these guys were incredibly fast. I'd say like 3 or 4 months later, I had frames, fenders, tanks. I was putting together rake trees with long front ends, using Harley lowers, Evos. I had a whole chassis I could sell you with everything, all the bolts and lugs and fender mounts and tank mounts, everything on it, right? You could just buy a whole kit. So CCI picked it up. Right, called it their bike in a box. Yeah. Right, and
I remember that.
I couldn't even hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, 10 a day going out on pallets. Fuck. It was like a faucet turned on, right? And we went from being a $500,000 company to being a $10 million company, with no idea how to manage all. This is no business. There's this is no training. Yeah. This is just. But it was just rocking, right? And we were, cranking it, and then we got into there's an ad right outside of this door, that shows me and Brian rolling down the street. It's actually right here on this street, and we're riding these 2 rollers with no engines in them. And what we had done is pushed them down the road, and the photographer was laying on the sidewalk and took a picture of it, and a car had gone by while we were doing it, so it kind of gave the whole thing speed, because we're doing like 1 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And then you could see Jack in a Box across the street in the background, right? So we went in and photoshopped Jack and changed it to bike. So it said Bike in a Box.
Oh,
and as the 2 of us, and then, dude, it was this huge ad that everybody freaked out about. It was trying to figure out if it was photoshopped or Jack in a Box sued us for their font. That Jack in a Box font is trademarked. Who knew? First lesson in trademark infringement. I had no idea. So of course we apologized and they let us off the hook, but we didn't know that. We didn't know that it was trademarked. But because we had altered it, we were they felt we were coattailing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. And I guess probably we were.
That's crazy.
Nothing happened, but that was my first lawsuit.
It's crazy that as a biker that corporation was able to see that.
Somewhere, some guy that worked for them was looking at a hot bike somewhere and said, "What? Hey, Joe, you ever seen that? And, hey, he can't do that."
Fucking haters.
Whatever. Corporate stuff.
So as the chopper thing was booming and the Discovery Channel thing started happening for a lot of builders across the country, how was your role in that? Like, how was your? I mean, you're already
We're killing it. Yeah, we're doing great at that time. And then they came to us. That was in 2000. That Hugh King showed up and asked if we'd be interested, in doing that stuff. And I think at first we were like, no, we don't know, we don't want to do that. We're really busy and and then we had some more conversations. And he promised he'd come in and sit in the corner, and not destroy our shop or whatever. He said, dude, I'm not going to rewrite history. He goes, I just want to sit in the corner and catch it, right? I just want to be there when it happens. And we were like, okay, and he did. He came, I think 6 people came over, and they literally sat in the corner and just let it go, right? That was the cool thing that's what was so pure and so awesome about the Great Biker Build-Offs is they left here after 30 days with whatever they had in the can. And then they had to go make a show out of it. They never stopped anything. They never said, hold on, we got to set this up different and get the lighting different. And, they never did that. They just left, and nobody knew what was going to happen until it was over, right? And it was truly an adventure. And we truly did have 30 days to build those bikes. And then we truly threw them on a truck and met somewhere for the first time. When I met Indian Larry, first time I ever met him, didn't even know who he was, right? And we rode through Brooklyn and rode through the countryside into New Hampshire, and it was who knew what was going to happen. And it was a really amazing, pure experience. Changed my life, right? For sure. Changed my life, and it was great. I got to meet some great people, and I think that's why those shows were so awesome. But anyway, we did them. And it wasn't even really like a commercial thing or it's gonna blow us over the top. We were so busy we couldn't have handled another job, but what it did is it created celebrities out of some of the motorcycle builders. It did, and that was, our industry never really had that. Maybe deep internally, like you'd see some guy walking by who you really respect, like whatever, and your peers, and you're like, dude, that's so-and-so from, and oh, really, is it really? And so there's a little of that, but it was never but now, let's go through first season, right, it's aired, right, and shows are calling us and want to give us money to come sign posters, and Easy Riders is doing a centerfold tour with all the builders from the Great Biker Build-Offs, and so, I mean, it was just, dude, the first couple of years, I think, I was single, right, I had nothing going on other than my business, but I could leave every Friday night and come back Sunday night and be fine. And we're going to, it was like rock star shit. We're going to things, we're signing posters, we're getting taken out at night, we're going to bars, we're going to clubs, we're doing whatever, we're coming home with a pocket full of cash. It was great, right?
It's fucking insane.
It was, and it was like, man, this wrench, did that, and it was kind of crazy that,
cool.
People all the time would say, you're a da-da-da. I'd be like, I'm a mechanic, dude. That's all I am. We're being Italy or something and look at each other like, holy shit, we're in Italy, because of motorcycles, right? Just
that is wild. That is insane, man. I've always talked about with people. I was like, man, could you imagine? You're a handsome fella, but Billy Lane was like this, like sex.
He was. I was on tour with him, and you can't even imagine.
I was like, could you imagine doing that? Just being at Sturgis one year, and you're Billy Lane, like, fuck, man, like.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being that guy.
Me and Billy had a joke I used to tell him. I said, dude, you get all the strippers and I get all their moms. What's up with that? Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, man. But yeah, just, you know, I went back and I remember when those shows came out, Motorcycle Mania, Monster Garage, that helped hone my direction into getting, because I grew up in a paint and body family, right? But I fucking hated it because everybody did it, and it was like the thing you had to do every summer is go sand cars and stuff. So
that's a whole other patience, man.
Yeah, I didn't want to be in this.
Right.
But then, you know, watching those TV shows and how they started glorifying this working class trades and stuff, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it's kind of like what's happening now with social media, where you have like trades like welders are all of a sudden rock stars in their own little world of welding. You know what I mean? So it's kind of made
fabricators. Sure, it's an art. It's an art form. It really is. Yeah, people don't. It really is. And I'll tell you, you know, I used to go to the Easy Rider shows and compete in them. Like in 2000, well, I had my Oakland Roadster Show champion Prodigy, and I took it on the tour, and it won everything. And, but Easy Rider shows then were dark, smoky, naked, wet t-shirt contests, went on till 11 o'clock at night. Everybody was drunk, and it was an outlaw-y kind of atmosphere. Black leather everywhere, right? Everything was in, people wearing chaps all around, you know. And then jump forward just a few years, right? And now there's a bouncy house, and there's kids and tons of families coming to these shows that don't even own motorcycles. They're just fans of the shows. And instead of having a few thousand in attendance, you've got 10 or 20,000 in attendance at a convention center. And so the promoters it was just cash registers were blowing up, dude. But it changed the whole face of things. And then that stopped, right? And everybody's still trying to milk it a little bit or whatever's going on or whatever. And the guys who took it seriously probably had a hard time with it. I didn't. I never really took it to heart. So
I never thought about that, man, because I was only privy to the Easy Rider show after the boom. So the bouncy houses. I was like, where are all the titties at that I see in the magazines?
Never like it was that it was that in the beginning. You know, I remember sitting on the stage with Bruce, the MC at the Easy Rider shows, and I'm sitting there with my hands out like this, and he's telling everybody that my hands are registered scales, and we're going to have a heaviest boobie contest. And everybody's going to come put their boobies in my hands. I'm going to judge. You know, that would go on all day and all night. You know, it was great. You know, but you can't do that. You couldn't. It changed. The whole demographic of the shows changed. Yeah. I mean, and they had to have all kinds of stuff for kids, right? Which is cool. It's really cool to have all the kids there and inspire a whole. I can't tell
next
you
generation
at Born Free. You know, how many kids come up to me, and I still think they're kids, these are 20, 30-year-old guys, come up to me and say, you know, oh, I met you when I was 9 with my dad, and, you know, so on and so forth. And I'm like, that is so cool. Yeah. You know, that is super cool. Yeah.
That is so strange to like see that. And, man, that's insightful, man. I did not think about how that changed with the influx of like the TV commercializing the industry like that. You know, that's cool.
It really changed it. And then it's, I think right now it's kind of been left kind of spinning, you know, and who knows what's going to happen. You know, the promoters are trying to figure out what to do. The shows are trying to figure out. The industry's kind of trying to figure out what to do. There's still a lot of passion in this industry.
So just moving forward, because I know we have a time crunch here, but the after this kind of craze and then the market crash and then things kind of descaling and things like that, like, you kind of hit the nail. You kind of hit another home run with the big wheel. You know, with the like I was telling, I forgot the name of it. Was it the Chupacabra? Was the first road glide?
Chupa Mireda.
Okay, that's it.
Means stuck my wheel in Spanish.
And I've told this story to a lot of friends, and I was like, this is when I kind of like broke out on my own. So I was at Rot Rally, 2007 or 8 or 9.
Was that bike there?
Yeah,
2009.
Okay. Yeah. So I was set up as a booth right next to your booth.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, no, I take that back. I was not. I was outside. I'm not good enough to be inside.
Oh, you weren't in the arena, right?
I've been in the arena since then. But I remember walking in there. You had Joe Martin down there, and I'm from the same town that Joe Martin shop was in, but I never really got super close with him just because I was a custom paint airbrush artist. And in our industry in the early 2000s, it was much more competitive, and now we're all good friends and everybody works together. But then it was like, what are you looking at? You know,
right? I got you.
So walking in there, you know, I was kind of mesmerized because I was always a fan of Joe Martin's paint work. So I'm looking at that for like inspiration as how I can evolve my shit. And then road glides were ugly as fuck, man. They were not the bike. But then I walked up and I saw it was a flat brown.
Yep.
You know,
red oxide. It's actually called primer. It's just a primer.
And you had like the Day of the Dead shit kind of painted on the back, and I was like, and the pointed tank, you know, like the teardrop tank, because I've done that on my bikes years and years, just because I'm short as fuck, and so
makes your thigh room.
Yeah,
sure does.
You know, when you got the big wide tank, it's hard to touch the ground. So that pointed tank allows me to kind of still have control of the bike. But so I saw this bike, and it literally, I was a sport bike guy, and I go, this is cool. This is badass. And then of course I'm nowhere near in the financial range of being able to own a Road Glide. I'm 24 years old, 25, and then I just see this thing start to roll, and then all of a sudden, like, it went from, because I was working in a shop painting all the bikes for Rick Fairless.
Oh, got it. Uh-huh.
All right, so I'm working in that shop, and then I see this transition where we're doing all these big dogs and bourgettes and repairs on these things, and then it kind of turned into like a couple of bobber kind of jobs where we're just doing like, faux finish, rusty kind of pinstripe jobs, and then all of a sudden baggers started coming in.
Right.
They started kind of flowing in. You did a bike for a dude a long time ago, AP, Second to None.
Sure, yeah, sure.
I painted that blue bike when he brought it to
Oh, did you
Texas.
really? Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of bikes for AP.
AP's a good dude, and so like that era took place, and I saw this and I saw it happen, and I was like, fuck, man, it's crazy. And then it literally was another influx of money into the industry that helped fund a lot of businesses from that point moving forward that are kind of still in business today,
Yeah, and that was that whole so I've always loved touring bikes. I've always done custom baggers, right? So in 1998, I took an FLT standard, right, and I customized it, stretched the fender, stretched the tank, did the normal, or now it's normal, and I created a line of parts that I was good, and I actually have an article in my office from 1998 talking about how I'm going to change the bagger game, and I'm going to make people love baggers, and I'm going to do all this shit, and flat on my face, failed. Nobody wanted nothing to do with them, and so I had all this product that I created to do this bagger thing, and it was all in a container out back, all with big red X's of tape on the front of it because it's all been written off as a loss. But you didn't, you don't throw it away, right? It's all just sitting in a container. And so the bagger thing was an accident too. It wasn't planned. Not that I always liked them. I always had my own, but didn't have a lot of customers asking me for them and stuff. And I was in Seattle doing a charity event for the Seattle Children's Hospital, and I was visiting the dealerships around the area the first day I was there. And I forget the name of the dealership. I remember the manager's name, Scott, was there. And there's the first Street Glide sitting in the showroom, right? It's 2005, I think. 2005. It's a 2006 Street Glide, but it's out like August of 2005, right? So it's 2005, and I go, dude, do you guys do that? It's a nice looking bike. I go, I like the way you stripped it down and everything. It looks good. That's what we do to the standards, in LA and in Arizona and stuff. And he's like, we didn't touch that bike. He goes, that's just a brand new Harley. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, Harley's finally coming around. They're realizing that people, want a little comfort with their customs and da-da-da. And so I bought it. I said, has anybody bought that bike? He said, no. I said, I'll take it. Nice. So I had it shipped back here. My wife and I had a trip coming up to Mexico, and I said this would be a perfect bike for us to ride through Mexico. And so it got back here. As soon as it got here, I did a few things to it real quick, and I think I stuck a 21-inch wheel on it and lowering kit, whatever. And my wife and I rode it through Mexico, had a great trip on it. And then when we came back, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to customize this for Sturgis, for our ride to Sturgis. And she was like, great. So I started doing my thing to it, and I stretched the tank, and that's when I invented the monkey bars. Now we had been making monkey bars for years on our choppers since before 2000, even doing that same look but on choppers, right? But I said, let's do some monkey bars for this. So we, bent them the way they needed to come out of that fairing and pointed them, and had no idea what we were about to do. And
that changed the game too, right
over
there.
A few months while I was doing this bike, people were coming over to the shop, the regulars that come through, and our fans and our customers, and we got $100,000 customs and bobbers and all kinds of choppers going on, and everybody walks right past all that stuff. How's the bagger? I want to see the bagger. Yeah, what's going on with that bagger? People coming in, giving me their ideas. Oh, it'd be cool, and da-da-da-da-da. And hey, I'm thinking of getting one of these. And my dentist comes in and says, "Can I have that? Can I buy that from you? I know you're going to ride at Sturgis, but I want it as soon as you get back. That's mine." So he bought it. right? And I went home. I remember going home and telling my wife, I'm like, this is crazy. I go, you know that bagger thing I tried 10 years ago? And I said, it's kind of weird. Like, all of a sudden, everybody's coming to the shop. It's all about that Street Glide. I said, it's really weird. I said, it's like Bagger Nation or something. And she was like, oh, that's a great name.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, what? She goes, Bagger Nation. You know, that's a cool name. And so it hadn't really happened yet. But so we finished the bike. I put Bagger Nation on it. I put that logo on it. I painted it on the bike. And we rode it to Sturgis. And like 6 different magazines were fighting over featuring it, which was really weird. And all the hamsters were going crazy over it. And everybody was talking about it. And I got home in late August on it. And I had my buddy Ed that I was getting ready to go on the Easy Riders tour with. And I said, and the chopper stuff had turned off like a light switch. It was done like overnight. Like one day we were building choppers, next day nobody wanted choppers. It was just like that. And we were lucky when that happened that we had already kind of started down the Bagger Nation thing, right? And so we threw together a little 3-page leaflet real quick, made the Bagger Nation logo, made a few monkey bars, pulled all that stuff out of the container that was dead from years ago, reshot it, put it in this little leaflet, dashes and stretch fenders and whatever, and we went to the Easy Riders show as Bagger Nation. And had a little booth, a little 10 by 10, Bagger Nation. And I had that bike sitting in the booth, and everybody loved it. We just had a nice response. But the weird thing was everybody kept coming in the booth and going, "You look really familiar. You know why do I know you?" And I didn't realize what was going on at that moment. But I was like, I don't know. Do you watch America's Most Wanted? We're just goofing around. I have no idea why they're saying that. So it took us a couple shows, and then I think we were in Charlotte, and these 2 guys were in there, and all of a sudden they goes, "Oh, wait a minute, you're Paul Yaffe," and I was like, "Duh," and they were like, it just said Bagger Nation, it didn't say Paul Yaffe's Bagger Nation. So we ran home, changed the logo, added Paul Yaffe's to it, redid the leaflet in a week, right? And we're at the next Easy Rider show, wherever it was, Columbus or something, with Paul Yaffe's Bagger Nation. Then it went insane. It was like, couldn't make enough handlebars, couldn't make enough stretch tanks, couldn't make enough anything. The phones were ringing off the hook. Everybody wanted bikes. Build me a bagger. It was like unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And that was 2006 Easy Riders tour. And it was just on like wildfire. And then I bought that Road Glide story. It's funny. I didn't like Road Glide either.
Yeah.
But Ed, the guy I was on tour with.
Trying to be quiet. It's the loudest thing.
Ed was begging me to do a Road Glide. Dude, you gotta. I'm like, I'm not doing a Road Glide. He's like, dude, buy a Road Glide, build it. He goes, if you don't like it, I'll buy it from you. He goes, it's the best riding bike ever. The wind and the cuts right through anything, and you'll love it. And so I bought an 08 Road Glide, and I ended up putting the first 23-inch wheel on. Yeah. Right, we put a 23-inch wheel on it. We made the 23-inch wheel from a solid plate. They didn't exist, but Avon, they're famous for making tires that fit nothing.
Yeah.
They make a tire that there's no support for or whatever. They've got a 23-inch rear wheel right now. It's like, what the hell is that fit? Yeah, they're just expecting the industry to revolve around it. But they did that when the fat tires. They made a 240, they made a 280, they made a 300. There was nothing to support any of that, and the industry would rally around it, right? So they had this 23-inch tire that nothing fit. So I bought one, made a wheel that fit it, knew enough about rake and trail, right? And I actually found a set of 7-degree trees from Joey Purse, who was a Colorado chopper builder from manufacturer from years before. I had a set here that fit a touring bike, and we used them, and we built this 23-inch bike that was insanely received all over everywhere. And then, the next thing, actually Doug Magoon, who's Metal Sport, Mad Wheels.
Metal Sport first, right?
So Ron Lloyd, who owns Metal Sport, who's Doug's, at the time was Doug's partner, boss, whatever. Ron still makes all my wheels. He has this amazing machine shop. He does space shuttle shit and Formula One stuff and crazy hydrogen cured $500 each bolts and all kinds of. His machine shop's amazing. But so he had the capability. He cuts all these 34s and everything from solid plates.
Yeah, I was part of the when they did the 32 release. Right. I painted 2 of the first 5
of their bikes. So Ron. So right. So he did all that stuff. Shannon and him are real close. Davison from Chop Shop. And, so Doug was saying, dude, you got to do a 26. I got one tire from V Rubber, this 26-inch tire. He goes, if you'll do it, he goes, you're the guy who can figure out the rake and trail and da-da-da-da-da. And I've got my buddy Doug Eggleston sitting behind me in my office while I'm having this phone conversation. And I'm like, I don't think he's like, dude, I'll make you the wheel. It's going to be $6,000. I'm like, I'm not paying $6,000 for that wheel. And Doug's like, he's like literally hitting me in the back of the neck, right? He's hitting me. He's like, do it. He goes, you got to do it, And so I did. So I said, all right, cut it for me. Send it. Let's do it. I'm going to do it. I'll figure out the trail. So we cut a piece of wood, right? He gave me the diameter. We cut a piece of wood and went out in the back and put it on an axle and started figuring out rake and trail and what we needed to do. And we made a set of 9-degree trees and so we put 9 in the neck, 9 in the tree, which made a perfect trail. And we built Chupa Merida. Yeah. And that's and that was the first 26-inch wheel bagger, right? So, and then of course, that blew up. It was on. That's what the baggers needed, big wheels. Yeah. Right? I mean, it looked great. They rode really nice. Yeah. Not the best riding bikes, but they ride really nice.
Compared to a custom bike, though. I mean, if you're comparing it to a raked out chopper that you had to 3-point turn to U-turn.
And then so you got to understand that because of my experience with rake and trail, I built choppers that rode like stock bikes. Okay. So I'm riding these 12-foot long, 18 over choppers. I'm doing 110 miles an hour on them with one hand through canyons, just ripping them, right? And just thinking that my front wheel is doing this up front because you can't feel it where you're sitting, but you look at it, oh my god, right? But they just handled it great. It was just the flex of the fork, that made it do that, right? It was just, they rode great. We loved them. I rode them, like I said, I built these crazy bikes and rode them to Sturgis every year. So
there's this massive amount of things that took place in that whole big wheel era, but then 5 years later, so then you start developing the SRT wheel, the fat tire wheel, right? And I wasn't feeling it at first. I really wasn't. But as of recently, they started doing this 23 version of it, and I'm like, fuck, because it looks. I'm 26 is my favorite size wheel if we're going big wheel back. Right. Love that. I think it's the perfect balance of everything. And mine that I had, I rode it across country multiple times. Right. So I know that you can still enjoy a ride on those bikes. Sure. But when you started coming out with this, did you feel pressure to have to kind of hit another home run or try to find something like that?
It wasn't like that at all. I've never ever carried myself like that. I've never done anything with intent or this is going to be the next trend or whatever. I certainly would like it to be, but that's not what motivates me. What motivates me is my riding and my experience on my motorcycle, building something custom and then riding it across the country and proving it. That's what satisfies me, right? And then of course you get satisfaction from if you stick something in front of a bunch of people and everybody's smiling while they're looking at it, and you got to admit it's very satisfying, right? From a builder, from a guy who's heart and souling something. Basically, you throw that thing out there, it's like you're standing in front of people naked, and are they going to go or what, right? So you get a great response. It's an emotional thing for a builder,
for sure,
right?
100%,
and still, after all this time, every single one is just as emotional. Doesn't change, right? So, but it was my response to the 30s and the 32s, and the 34s hadn't even come out yet, but I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is just. I built a 30. I built 130, and rode it 3,800 miles to Sturgis with my daughter for her 18th birthday. She wanted to ride to Sturgis with me, so we did it on that bike.
That's cool.
And had a great trip. We went through 7 national parks and wonderful. But I didn't like the 30. I just didn't like it. At the end of the day, it handled fine. The way we invented that little short neck thing that everybody uses now. That was totally our deal. But we didn't commercialize it. I didn't like it, so I didn't take it anywhere. Yeah. But the short neck thing, the whole point of that was keeping the bike low. Yeah. Not having a giraffe neck and this huge ridiculous. Dude, those things. You might be able to put them around town, but that ain't no cross country ride.
They'll be really I've ridden the 32s, and they're really really heavy. To carve or curve. Right. In the 26, you can kind of fall into it better.
You get out for 26 at the end of the day, you don't feel the difference. When it's a little rougher because the tire's so skinny. But the 30, when I got off the 30 at the end of the day, that's just my traps were like, and I was like, yeah, I feel fine. You know,
exactly.
I was just so pumped from the inertia of the wheel. And you don't feel it when you're riding, but you're working, right? Like we went up to Glacier National Park, or whatever, 14,000 feet all the way to the top on that thing, right? You're all the way up and down, right? So
slow speeds too.
A lot of work, right? So, and I got my daughter on the back and 100 pounds of luggage in the bike, and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, when I got back, the guys were like, "How was it?" I said, "It was great, but that's not what I. It's like, it's not. I don't want to put any energy into this." So we were fine with the 26s, super busy, everything's great, but I started thinking of something else. So and then the 2013 History Channel shows up, and they're going to do this
the biker
battleground thing, which again I was super resistant to, did not want to do it, and that was a whole different experience for shows. It was everything that the biker battlegrounds or the biker build-offs weren't. Right? It was produced, and it was a crew, and it was tons and tons of people. And
I talked to Shoaib about this yesterday, and I said that I enjoyed that show.
Right. A lot of people did. A lot of people.
But it's like Shoaib said, it's like History Channel just is trying to teach you something, and it really just needed to be a good show, and that's what it was. But they just didn't want to carry it, or they killed it before they even got the reception. I don't know what it was.
I don't know about any of those details. I know they came back and talked to us about another season, and I was like, absolutely not. Yeah, that was, for me, it was like a no way ever. It cost me so much money just because they'd stop us for days. Something would happen, and they'd stop us for days, and then they would actually throw some stuff in it, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if that caught on fire? And we know it's not gonna. Oh yeah, it's gotta catch on fire. You know. And so next thing you know, we're acting, right? And all right, it's on fire. Paul's gonna have a cow already. Roll them. And that's what I didn't like about it. I think there's 4 episodes on my TiVo that I've never even seen. I didn't watch them. Yeah. So, but again, it totally reunited.
How long do you think that'll take?
I was gonna say, I bet this takes 15 minutes.
Let's pause it and we'll get back to it. Cool. Well, we were talking about the biker battlegrounds, the Phoenix biker battlegrounds, and how you just kind of were over it. You didn't really want to. It's just too much invasive into the actual operations of the business, basically. Yeah,
the business has transformed or grown over the years, and we've grown away from being a custom motorcycle shop, which we always build custom motorcycles. One, they're great for R&D, they're great for our brand name. It's great to, inspire us, see new models and create new product and that kind of stuff. But so it's a tough way to make a living. And then when you start getting into in-depth manufacturing and the majority of your days are R&D'ing new product and designing new stuff and bringing designs that have come to fruition to market and marketing and promotions and all the things that go with them, and you have lists of new products that you're bringing to market and to-do lists of marketing it goes on and on. You get stuck on a bike that's being difficult. There's an 83 FXRT sitting in the showroom floor. That thing had me by the throat.
Yeah, that's what Phil was saying.
The entire time. Very, very difficult build. And for many reasons, mostly because the customer I was building it for is very discerning, and I built him a lot of incredible bikes. But also what he does with the bikes. Doesn't have a real mechanical aptitude, doesn't really understand what he's doing, loves to ride them, loves to have them, but they've got to be trouble-free.
Yeah,
so imagine
FXR.
making an 83
RT
AMF shovel head trouble-free for a 3,800-mile trip.
Yeah, right? I was talking to Phil about it when we walked in. I was like, I'm an 82 baby,
right,
and I'm lucky because I could get me a birth year FXR, which is kind of like our thing. And but 82 is like there's really, other than it being a shovel head, it's not that fantastic of a bike.
Nothing memorable.
Yeah.
Right?
The 83 RT is the first year RT.
Got it.
Shovel head. Right. It's the only combination. You know what I mean? Right. So that's cool. But
it was the flagship that Harley announced its new ownership and its new venture.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee?
Planning it.
So it's on display there, the first one. And then next to it is a clay model of an inline 4 Harley motor that could have been the direction they got. It looks like a Honda.
Do they have the Nova there? That part of the okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So it's crazy seeing the two, what it could have been, which is very Goldwing-esque, you know, and then what they chose to do. But there's a whole video with Bluestein announcing this bike, and it's going to be their flagship and what it's going to be and so on. And they're all big afros and big collared shirts, and it's awesome. You know,
You were around. I mean, how old were you when that came out? Still high school?
I'm 19.
Okay. Are you involved though in the motorcycle thing at that time?
It's a hobby.
Okay.
Right. It's a hobby. Right. So.
But I mean, in the '80s though, you kind of rolled in, and from what we've been told, those bikes weren't liked.
No.
From the older guys.
Well, I want to say an RT. I mean, they're like, you know.
Well, just the FXR platform. It was like, don't
Japanese. It was a little bit of a tank. And then, so here's where we struggled with that 83 was this first year manufacturing for Harley and how they brought these things to fruition was like, I don't know how we're going to put this fairing together. Oh, I got this glue right here. Okay, let's try that. You know, and from one bike to the next, they're put together differently. Yeah, it's really incredible. Like you really don't get any two the same. And so this particular one came from Maine, and it was original, and it was corroded, and every wire I opened up was green to the core, right? Completely wouldn't carry electricity. The bolts are just sea rusted in, like it looked like it was on Cape Cod or something, right? Yeah. But it was an original bike. It looked very nice in the pictures, and the guy, my customer who bought it off of eBay, right? And you know, they had some polish on it, you know, but when it got here, so it looked like a pretty straight bike when we got it. So we didn't question its integrity. We just started doing all the things that he wanted us to do to it, which is what it became. And it really didn't turn into a problem till we started trying to paint it and started trying to finish things and trying to do final assembly is when we started finding problem after problem after problem. And the paint was insane. The plastic wouldn't take adhesion sealer, wouldn't take primer. Everything wanted to bubble off of it. It had, I don't know what it had been cleaned with or what kind of corrosion it had that became part of it, that it was incredibly difficult. And so anyway, it was. But what happened is my whole crew, my R&D fabricator, my instruction writer, my R&D designer, you know, all these guys that have all these projects that they're supposed to be working on, right, to accomplish this, are all spending their days working on that thing because he's going to ride it to Sturgis, right, and it's his trip, and it makes me want to go, I'm just not doing this. I can't do this kind of, you know, I mean, new baggers that we put together, I could do it one hand tied behind my back with a blindfold on, right? It's everything out. We manufacture everything that goes on it. We know everything fits perfect. And it's, you know, it's a very straightforward for us. It's easy. I mean, it's much easier than than those kinds of things that I just don't want to take on anymore.
That you know, the other thing I wanted to bring up was like your role in like the baddest bagger competition with American Bagger and Urban Bagger. That show really helped also catapult the need or want to build these bikes for a lot of people because you had a show dedicated to it. You know what I mean? And
that, believe it or not, that was really my wife and Mike Ballard from Full Throttle Saloon. That was their idea. You know, obviously I was deep into doing baggers. And I had a store inside of Mike's old Full Throttle Saloon that we occupied every year during the Sturgis Rally. And we were there, I don't know, me and Mike and Susie were hanging out having a drink or something, and he was like, you know, maybe we should do an all bagger show. Susie was like, oh, it's a great idea. And I was like, oh, well, I could, you know, we could do that. He goes, we could do it right out in front of the parking lot. And this is 10 years ago, right? So we said, okay, we'll do a baddest bagger in Sturgis show. And we decided to do it. And then I said, oh, we need a media partner. So we called up Dave Withrow, who was doing Urban and American, and said, hey, you want to come out and, you know, run this show with us? Nothing else. You'll have a parking lot full of bikes that you can shoot, right? And you got a year's worth of your magazine content for not leaving your front door because he lives there. I said, and so we did. So the first couple years we did, I remember, you know, and it's crazy how that show evolved. From the first year we did it, and it was, you know, 80% stock bikes, chromed out, customed out, flame paint jobs, whatever. You know, 3 23-inch bikes and nothing else, right? And then immediately, like the second year, it was 10 stock bikes, 40 23-inch wheel bikes and half a dozen 26-inch bikes.
Yeah.
And then just watching year after year how the wheels got bigger and the stock bikes got smaller, and,
Yeah.
and it just got crazier. And then we started doing more of them, right?
Yeah.
So we went to the East Coast and did one in Daytona, and then, we did a few more. And
So the Galveston one, the first year at Galveston was when we painted the bike for what was the start of Misfit, the
Right.
bagger part of
Got it.
Misfit.
Uh-huh.
So the baddest bagger of Galveston that year was the one that we all painted, and
Nice.
it was badass.
super cool.
Yeah.
Chris does some.
I mean,
Chris has done
crazy.
some beautiful bikes
I was
over the years.
that was kind of the first time I ever saw you, and I was kind of Star Trek because me and Chris went and we went and ate, and it was pouring raining, right? And that bagger was just sitting on the curb out
I remember
on the
that.
seawall.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
And you were in the fucking the restaurant eating, and me and the guys, the shop that I was with at the time used to be Live Fast Customs was our shop.
Right.
And we're like, fuck, man, that's Yaffe over there, dude. And I got monkey bars on my shit,
Right.
like all that stuff. It's like,
Nice.
fuck, man, like we should say something, but it's like kind of like that. When someone is eating,
I
you don't
got
want
it,
to walk
sure.
up and be like, hey, man,
Nobody else cares. You shouldn't either.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the first year of that. I think it was the first time I saw you. And then that next year we rode to Arizona Bike Week and
Nice.
that kind of
It's
shit.
nice you've
came
come out to
here.
Arizona Bike Week.
Yeah.
That's my wife's event, and it's really
real?
growing. Yeah, it's growing huge.
How do you
Yeah,
feel
she's
about
doing
it though?
great
Like,
with it.
over the years, I don't want to like paint any bad picture of it, but it's just so spread out, or it has been, and it's kind of.
So it kind of has to get spread out. So Arizona Bike Week, the actual Arizona Bike Week is at Westworld. That
Yeah.
is the event, right? And I know Cave Creek started their, bar stuff, and they're doing their bar thing, and then the guys on the other side of town started that Peoria thing.
Yeah.
And that all stemmed from, of course I know where all the bodies are buried because my wife, it's her event, so I have to hear it all. But it was a fight amongst all the Harley dealers.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah. One Harley dealer in Peoria said that the guy in Scottsdale couldn't come to Peoria and sell tickets for a military raffle bike.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't coming into their area, right? And he got offended by that because he's very pro-military, and he called Harley and said, "I don't want any of these dealers coming to Bike Week because they're all across the freeway from me." He goes,
Yeah.
"They're all within a mile of my shop. They're all coming to promote their companies that are." They can't do that.
Yeah.
So it just turned into, oh, really? How do you like me now? Kind of thing. And that was all of Susie's sponsors.
Yeah.
Those were all her big check writers that set up big booths in their deal. They presented the concerts at night.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden her rug's just ripped out from under her, right? And so then the other dealership that got their hand slapped started their own, like, really, oh yeah, okay, we don't have to come there. We'll have our own
Yeah,
deal.
just do
And
our own thing.
so if you think about it, I don't know how much you've been to Sturgis. But obviously, the Sturgis Rally and races happen in Sturgis,
Mm-hmm.
small town. The hill climbs there, the dirt tracks there, the drag races are there.
Yeah.
Everything's right in the town of Sturgis. But
Yeah.
you couldn't possibly have that rally just in that town, right? It has to go to Spearfish, has to go to Deadwood, has to go to Hill City, has to go to Rapid City.
Yeah.
Has to spread out, right? So if you really want this to become kind of a world-class event, right, it's got to kind of spread out. And if, like, you go to Galveston, you got the industrial side of Galveston, and the cruise
The
ships are coming
Strand.
in, and that's where.
Yeah.
Then you got the Strand, then you got the kind of Malibu Beach thing, and you got the seawall there
Yeah.
where other stuff's going on. And Galveston's not nearly as big of a footprint as
Yeah.
metropolitan Phoenix, but so you kind of have to, even though as a promoter you could be nervous about that stuff reaching out, and now other people are kind of, if you want to say, coattailing you.
Yeah.
So that was my wife's first impression. I was like, no, you can't do that. I go, that's like me saying, okay, I'm going to put a 26-inch wheel on a bike, but I'm going to invent the rim, I'm going to invent the tire, I'm going to patent the tree kit, and you can only get it from me, right? If you want to do a 26-inch wheel, I'm the only guy who can do it.
Yeah.
I go, it'll never become a trend. That
Yeah,
way.
but you're gonna bottleneck
I
the-
said, but you try to create a niche for yourself where you're doing a nice kit and doing, but everybody's got to do it. Every builder's got to do his own kit.
Mm-hmm.
Every builder's got to make 26-inch wheels. Every builder's got to make his fairing and his look and his thing, and everybody comes out with products, and then it becomes a movement, right? Then
Yeah.
it becomes a trend. You have to let it go. The wide tire thing, everybody's like, oh, everybody's biting on your wide tire thing. I said, no. I go, no, it's great. There should be a 21 and a 23 and I said, I'll stand by mine and say it's the best for whatever reasons I do. Performance, true handling, better tire. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'll stand behind that and say my kit's the best because of the way,
The
because I
riding.
built it for a certain reason. But you like a 23 because it's bigger and it's really the diameter of a 26. And
Yeah.
it's more of a big wheel look.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. But I would argue that and say, yeah, but you're on a be rubber tire,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
but it's okay, and the ride's very different. But that's okay. I'm not going to it's not good or bad. It's just different. But there
Yeah.
has to be different for that fat tire to become a trend. And if that fat tire becomes a trend, let's say like the 26-inch wheel became a trend,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make money regardless, right? I'm gonna carve my own little niche. I'm gonna have my people that do my SRT kit. So whoever will have
It's a
their
style
people that do
thing.
their a native bagger will have his smaller
Yeah.
wheel 18-inch kit. Everybody has their own deal, and it's all good. It's not
Yeah.
none of it's right or wrong. It's just, yay, we're all celebrating that trend. So I told her, if you want this to become, you know, where it's Arizona Bike Week and the state gets taken over by motorcycles, right? You've got to let it go. You
Yeah.
got to know that it focuses there. And that's where the vendors, majority of them are, and that's where the event is, and that's where the night concerts are, and everybody ends up at your place at night. But they might be running around during the day, riding to wherever and going and seeing whoever and going to Cave Creek or going wherever they're going. I said, it's all good. They all end up, you know, nobody comes to Arizona Bike Week, spends the week here, and doesn't come visit your event, or doesn't go to a concert, or it just doesn't happen. That's just not the way. Like, would you go to Sturgis and never go to Sturgis? No, you might stay in Spearfish, and you might go up to Deadwood one day, and you might do something else, but you're gonna go into town. You're gonna see the town of Sturgis. You're gonna go to Buffalo Chip or whatever. You know, you're gonna see everything, right? And it's just so it's, you know, difficult from that, but you kind of need it. You need to have other things to do. Imagine if you just hung out at Westworld all day, nothing else to do.
They would definitely get bored.
No, I like it that a week before the event, if the town fills up, people are up north. Everybody's going to the Grand Canyon. They're going up to Jerome. They're going out to Tortilla Flat. They're riding all over the place, seeing the things they want to see, because Arizona's a beautiful riding country up here, right? They're going to Payson. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I led a ride last year for Arizona Bike Week, our charity ride, right? We had, 350 bikes, and we went up to Payson, right? And I could not believe that Payson was overrun with motorcycles. I mean, and that's 2 hours away up into the mountains. Every hotel, the parking lots were full of motorcycles. Every bar, there was 20 or 30 bikes. Yeah. But I thought I said, my God, it's growing. Because that's, used to 5-10 years ago, you go up there, 5 bikes up there or something. But it really looked like there was something motorcycle going on up there, which is great.
What it's kind of feeling like is like some of these events, because I've seen Rock Rally kind of evolve over the last 15 years. Sure. I've only done Sturgis. This would be 7 years. I missed 1 year in the 7 years, but 7 years. And then I did Daytona last year for the first time, just because I wanted the experience to talk about on this. And then next year, I'm going to try Laconia. I've never been there. So what I've started to notice is that it's so, I drink. I know that that's kind of a touchy subject for a lot of the world, but when you're in Daytona and you're on the main strip and you go in, you have a beer and you're walking up and down the thing, and then you got cops in the road with flashlights trying to it becomes this, like, I felt Daytona just did not want bikers there. I didn't feel like it. And so how you're mentioning like Jerome and Payson up there north, it's almost like the real enthusiasts are like, man, I want to do this. I want to be around a bunch of bikers. But it's like that. I just want to do my own thing. I don't want to feel like everywhere, because I'm scared to go to Cave Creek and have a beer and get back to the mainland.
I'm scared to ride out of there. Yeah, I'm the same way. I wouldn't go to Cave Creek and have a couple drinks and ride out of there.
Cool. It's such a cool area, but I'm scared as fuck to go there, have a couple beers, and I'll be full of anxiety the whole time. Like, all right, I had 1 beer this hour. All right, I can have another one now. And then I got to drink water.
That's the town. That's the town saying they don't want it there. I mean, when you ride into a town and there's big signs saying decibel limit, 80 decibels or whatever, they're not telling you they want motorcycles there, right? So, and that whole thing is fueled by one bar up there, one owner, and he puts on that whole thing, and that's his whole deal. But, it's all, to me, it's just a different kind of thing. And I don't come to bike weeks to get plowed, but I'll tell you, times have changed, where years ago I probably wouldn't have thought of this, but if I'm going to go into Sturgis and I'm going to go to One-Eyed Jack's and Oasis and hit Main Street and drink and do all that, I'm not going on my motorcycle. Yeah, I'm going to Uber out there, or I'm going to catch the bus or whatever that takes you out there, or a shuttle, or that's one nice thing about Arizona Bike Week is you're on private property and you're in an event that's fenced off, and you can go there on your bike, and you could camp in there, which the camping goes on for, I don't think you realize how many, there's 1,700 camping spots that are sold out months before the event even starts. It's amazing the sea of camping that goes on there. There's a whole city that go like a buffalo chip
Yeah.
kind of thing. That's kind of like what it's like. You got concerts at night, you got bars everywhere, you got vendors, and then after the concert's over, there's a new bar inside, where you can go in and you can stay till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And they got more bands in there and wet t-shirt contests and all kinds of stuff. So, if you want to really go let loose and be safe about it, to me, that's the place to do it, right? And then, limp back to your camper, right? Or leave your bike there. Right, it's perfectly safe. Yeah, leave your bike there and Uber back to your hotel if that's where you're at, or whatever. Come back and get it the next morning. Inconvenient, but safe. Right?
Yeah, I guess it just kind of goes in, because my second year at Sturgis, man, I don't know how the hell I didn't go to jail, kill myself, or any of that. We were at Knuckle all day long. Me and Daryl's Custom Cycles out there just drinking. He did this thing called a Panicking, where it was like a panhead S&S motor, and he won Baddest Bagger that year.
Nice.
And we're all out there. He's playing music, and we're fucked up. We're drunk. And then he's like, "Hey, Dana Halberg's at fucking Spearfish. Let's go over there real quick." And we're hauling ass down 90.
I've done it too.
Hauling ass.
We've all been there.
What it was, we went back. We were going to the industry party at the Dave's spot up there.
Black Hills Choppers.
Yeah, Black Hills Choppers. So we were going back there. We get there, and then there's more beer. And so, dude, I'm one-eyeing it, leaving that spot.
I gotcha.
And I'm staying in Hill City.
Oh, boy.
And I made it, but now in hindsight, looking back, I would never do that again. I would never even try it. But
we've all had those, we've all had those moments, and you hope you live through them. You hope you learn from them. You hope you don't kill anybody. You hope you don't kill yourself.
It's kind of an invincible thing. Like I literally felt invincible for so long, going out, having a couple beers, feeling like, yeah, dude, I ride better when I'm drunk. I'm more aware. But now I'm like, there's not that I was ever shameful, but I feel like I might have been. But now there's like no shame to jump in an Uber or take the shuttle.
That's called maturity.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's a better word.
That's what it's called.
So over the years of doing all this stuff, like, what do you think, like, you've just had the best experience as far as like a rally or a time when the rally was taking place, or a time in the industry where these events were going on,
What are some of the most memorable ones?
Yeah, like
stories?
Or just not, doesn't necessarily have to be the stories unless you got something cool, but
there's endless stories.
Yeah. But like if you were going to reminisce and talk about like, man, just for example, like, Daytona 2004, man, it was like all the stars aligned. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, what was...
There's, so, I mean, you were talking over 30 years, doing this, and there's just so many stories and so many different experiences, and every rally's different, right? You meet different people, you stay different places, you're riding a different bike, you're in a different place in your life, so you interpret things differently, but, there's so many, you could write a book, of all the stories and the adventures and the things you lived through that you probably shouldn't have, and I started this very young too. I'm not so much anymore, but you remember all these crazy stories. I remember being on the road with 100 guys, and we didn't pass a bar ever. We're on a 5-day trip, to Sturgis, and we leave at 8 a.m, and every half hour, 45 minutes, stopping somewhere and having a couple. So by the time the end of that day is, you're tanked. Sure. Of course, you don't. And again, we're riding these crazy customs, probably not riding quite as fast, or and we're in a big group, but none of that makes it okay. That's who I was, and that's what I did. I remember, I got arrested in Sturgis on Main Street for inciting a public riot. That's fairly memorable.
What year was that?
That's 2001.
Nice.
Yeah, 2001. That was Mike Lichter's fault, the photographer. Yeah, that was his doing, but to kind of set me up. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But so I still have that ticket somewhere. I got that ticket in a file somewhere, but that was pretty cool. Big night. That was on the Discovery bike. I was just on the bike that shoots flames, and that's what got me. That's what incited the public. The cops came and tried to arrest me while I was doing fire, and the crowd that had grabbed it, a huge crowd on Main Street, shut the whole street down, watching it, turned on the cops because they were trying to arrest me and started throwing stuff.
Oh shit!
And it was a whole deal. So I did incite a public riot, but we all lived through it. So it was everybody.
That's fucking insane.
Nothing happened, but it was crazy. Yeah. So.
Man,
so I've been in Sturgis jail a couple times. So
that's kind of like, as me, I'm not necessarily young, but like young as far as in my career of doing a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And, I was kind of talking with Tony last night from Ramjet. I don't know if we did this on the podcast or afterwards, but we were kind of talking about how, like, with things being so instant with social media and just the way the marketing of everything is now, and the way things are hot one day and the next day it's kind of over or whatever, as a business, the grind is still kind of an uphill struggle the whole time for, you get successes on the way. And sometimes some of us, like, don't look at the fact, like, 15 years ago when Shope started getting big name, he was, 40 something years old, or I don't know how old he is now, but he was in his 40s or his late 30s. And some of us, like, kind of have this, like, if it doesn't happen by the time we're 35, we're never going to reach some level of motorcycle success or notoriety or whatever the case may be. And then you see guys just, yourself, Ness, Fairless, guys that are still building bikes or have been, RP hard on Ness, but they still could continue to put things into the industry well into their 50s and 60s and on.
70s and 80s. I don't think it ever leaves you. I don't see myself retiring.
Yeah.
I might retire from this company. I might, pass the torch to my crew or whatever, but I'll still have some role in it. I'll still have some design, input or whatever into it. You can only hope that you can find some guys to pass the torch to and stay successful at it. But I'll always, build motorcycles or cars. I like building cars too. So I've always got projects I'm doing, and it's.
As far as like nowadays, though, also the other thing that I kind of want to talk about, and a lot of people are super interested in, is the M8 FXR project, the frame, and all this shit going on. So I was checking it out back there, and I have a 2019 Road Glide, and I'm an FXR fanatic, right? And so I'm like, fuck, man, like this is cool. This is a thing, and it's kind of like you were talking about.
We'll see, yeah.
It's insane. Just looking at pulling an M8 motor out of a bagger, and I'm looking at the FXR frame as also pulling Evos out of FXR frames. I'm like, I see all the things that were done, but from what you can talk about that you're willing to or whatever, like, what do you obviously you have the frame, but we're looking at a wider back tire. You're using a bagger swing arm, like a newer bagger swing arm,
right? And that's just an option. The frame actually comes with a different swing arm.
Okay,
yeah, but you can. I put that in there just to show you could.
Yeah.
If a guy wanted to. When I build these, I'll try to stay as far away from touring models as I can, just for the separation, if nothing else, just from marketing.
So rear wheel size though, is it still going to be running like a 180?
You could put a 180-200 in it if you want. It won't be it won't be set up for a 130.
Yeah.
But the Milwaukee 8s aren't. So you'd have challenges trying to go there, right? Because
didn't think about that.
Your drivetrain's just too wide, right? It's set up for that. You have to kind of, unless you want, it's one thing to widen your stance. It's a whole different thing to narrow it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it'll hold a 180-200 tire, no problem. Bolt right on, 8.5-inch rear fender. I started this project. I got my first Milwaukee 8 the beginning of 17, whenever they came out, and I just loved the motor. I just loved it, and so I did a bunch of them, riding them, what they did in the canyons, the way they handle, how you can wind them up more, the torque, and really without even doing a lot of motor work to them. I just really liked them, right? So I've got this FXRT project. I don't know if Phil showed that to you. Did he take you next door to the glass shop?
No, but I want to see it because I've been following that for a couple
So I can
years.
show it to you. So it's fairly state of disassembly right now, but I can show it to you. But so there's this FXRT that I've been building forever. It's like the bane of my existence. I can't finish it, right? So, but it's low and it's long and it sits down and it's got an FXRT fairing on it, but it's slammed down.
I got a point with that because when it came out, like the performance FXR guys kind of lost their shit a little bit,
right?
Because you were kind of doing your own thing,
totally different from what they're doing.
And like some of me and some of the other guys that are kind of not as nerdy as some of these other guys were like, dude, like, it's a fucking bike, man. It's all about doing what, like, you customizing it to your liking.
Sure. I don't care if they hate it or not.
Yeah.
That's something. If I had worried about that, I probably wouldn't be where I am. Right. So I'm always doing stuff that people hate till they see it done.
Hey, piss off the squares, man.
Then it's another story. So, but everything I build is performance oriented.
Yeah.
You know, I ride hard and I ride fast and I ride long, and that's just what I love, right? So I'm never going to build anything that you can't do that on, because otherwise it doesn't satisfy me, right?
Exactly.
So even if I'm building a 10-foot long chopper, you know, you're going to be able to scream on it, right? Or I don't want nothing to do with it. So, so this will be the same, you know, but as I was doing it and it started taking shape, I was thinking, a lot of people are going to want this.
I agree.
A lot of my customers are going to want one of these. But, you know, how many old FXRs am I going to go find, right?
Yeah, and then cut up.
You know, that have been completely chopped up or turned into, you know, performance bikes, which don't even get me started on the oxymoron of that. But, you know, so anyway, so I thought, you know, so I thought about, while I was doing that bike and it started to get close to deciding on what I was going to do to the drivetrain. Yeah. It's like, God, you know, I could put a twin cam in it, you know, but I'm already riding a Milwaukee 8, because I started this whole frame project over 2 years ago, right? Okay. So and what stalled it is I couldn't find a motor. I couldn't find a drivetrain to put. I couldn't find a wrecked Milwaukee 8 for like a year and a half. I couldn't find one that wasn't more than a new bike. Yeah, you know? Exactly. Yeah. So now they're starting to show up where you can buy them salvage, and you know, and I'm getting more and more of them. But so I thought, you know what, I'm going to create a frame. Right? I didn't want to go twin cam because it feels like I'm going backwards technology. Yeah. Right. Although there's nothing wrong with a twin cam, nothing wrong with replacing an Evo with a twin cam. I was worried about leaving that Evo power plant in that bike, as much as the purist in me really wanted to leave it in there, and it's going to end up staying in that bike's going to end up with the stock motor in it. So, or at least the original motor in it. And but then I said, God, what am I going to do for my customers? Right, that I can repeat, that doesn't take who knows how many hundreds and hundreds of hours of labor I have in that one. That I can redo, and so that was, you know, the FXR Milwaukee 8 chassis was conceived. Right, it wasn't built to, it wasn't created to satisfy these sport bike guys, although they certainly can use one and do it. Right, you can build it any way you want, but for me it was made to be low and long and a 23-inch wheel and lay down and be a sled, right? It's a Merc, right? That's what it is, right? So, and that's what I wanted it to be, and that's what it will be. The first one I build will be that. It'll be a reproduction of my Evo with an M8, but I've got two I'm building for customers right now that are going to be upside down. We've already, this is going to let some cat out of the bag, but I've already got a new, so we've kind of reinvented the upside down front end. That I won't show you, but and a lot of sport performance to make like a sport touring. Yeah. So we'll have a grand touring version too. Nice. That'll be set up. RD. It'll be, you know, it'll have 9 inches of ground clearance and full travel, and it'll be a badass.
This frame is like the production frame that you're going to look at. Like, what kind of? So is the rake going to be the traditional FXR rake?
Two different rakes. Yeah, there'll be a sport rake, and then there'll be a sled rake.
Okay, nice. That's actually really smart.
Because the sled rake's going to you're going to add 4 or 5 degrees in the frame, which you still could run sport like that if you wanted to run straight trees on it. It wouldn't be that heavy. But it's meant to set up with a 6-degree tree and a 23-inch wheel. Nice. So if you're going to take it back to a 19 and do that, a shorter, stouter bike, I actually think if you were going to do that, it would look good on this rake and not be quite so stumpy. It would be a little longer. So, you know, the stunt guys, you know, they get up on that tank and over their bars, and they want that trail as tight as possible because of what they're doing or whatever. But truth is, if it's set up right, the stability is actually greater with the trail increased, and I'll be proving that in the months to come. I've got some. I'm setting up some stunt bikes right now for a couple of our drifting stunt friends to beat up, and we'll see. But I'm setting them up my way. And they're going to come over and answer that question for good. So
the idea behind this frame is that you can buy this frame, go pick up a wrecked Road King or something like that, take this drivetrain out.
Not just the drivetrain, everything.
So is that
motor, tranny, primary, full electrical harness bolts right inside the frame.
Nice.
Right? Your radiator, your overhead oil lines, your regulator, full electrical caddy, your battery caddy drops right in, bolts on, battery, ABS, ECM, BCM, everything transfers right to it, turnkey, ready to go. The only thing you got to do is put forks, wheel, bars, a fairing if you want it, tank, rear fender, side covers.
What are you going to do for a tank, though?
We'll offer all of that.
You're going to offer it all?
So these ones that you saw out there that I'm building. So in the months to come, as I start finally building these, now that I've got the frame perfected and the fixtures done, so the two that were sitting on the ground,
floor,
those are full production chassis. Those are going to be in the next few months. Those will get fully done. One will turn into a mule, where I'll just fire it up and run it, start, but I'll make FXR style side covers that cover the EC, that cover all that stuff. I'll make a little chin scoop that absorbs the radiator and the regulator, right? And just bolt right on the front. I'll make a nice tank for it, probably a couple different tanks, probably more of a short sport, knee cut out, tight dash type tank. And then I'll make a long stretched, cool sled type tank.
Have you figured out like price points on any of like the actual frame sets yet or anything?
Yeah, the frames are going to be in the, they're going to be less than $4,000.
Yeah.
And that'll be frame, swing arm, engine mounts, cradle, battery tray, strut mounts. It'll be everything you need. There'll be nothing else you need. And then the accessories, the first accessories would be side covers. Will be the first thing you'd probably want to grab. If you want a chin scoop, or if not, you can just leave the stuff on the front of it. We're working on some mid controls.
Okay.
Because guys are going to want that. Guys are going to want a mid control.
I saw you had the Epix mid controls.
I do.
I run those on my bagger too.
I like them. They're a little tall for me.
Yeah.
The peg mount, the height. And I've talked to them about creating a special set. But I also part of me still wants to do a frame mounted set.
Yeah.
So I'll probably play around with that too as I start getting into them. I'll probably just buy a Dynamounts.
Yeah.
I'll stick them on there and then see what kind of weirdness I can come up with for linkage.
I mean, if you can make a kit to work into the, make the primary thing an easy transition.
That's the biggest thing is nobody wants to drill a hole through their primary.
Yeah.
Right? That's the deal.
Yeah.
So we've got 10, cocktail napkins of what we could do.
Yeah.
But who knows what'll work right, what'll look right, what'll be accepted. So that's the kind of, stock seats will fit on it. We'll make it fit as much existing aftermarket stuff as possible.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you didn't need a one-off seat you could buy. But if you do, I'll make a seat pan available.
Yeah.
So you can go have anybody you want put their seat on that pan.
Also, unfortunately, I was really excited to see the stuff that you've been making for the Sport Glide is one of the most popular models coming out for the new Softail thing.
Right. I'm glad you feel that way. Because I'm hoping it is. I've got a fairing and all kinds of stuff for it.
When it came out, when the Softail came out, right? And maybe I can get your take on this, but it pissed off the Dyna guys and the Softail guys, the traditional Softail guys. Right. Because the Dyna guys, they got a better bike, but they got a Softail. The name, the marketing was horrible. They should have called it what Project X is what it was kind of going by or something.
I don't know. Yeah.
And then the Softail guys, so your Viklas, your low and slow, those bikes don't go down as low.
Right.
Because of the suspension being a much more idealistic for performance and handling.
Right. It's a great riding bike.
Yeah. And so the Sport Glide was like, everybody was excited because now, not so much when it came out, but now everybody loves the T-Sport. Everybody loves that bike. And they're worth, in the stream of money and what Dynas are worth, like T-Sports are unicorns, like original ones with fairings and everything works, worth a lot of money, even if they're clapped out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when the Sport Glide came out, everybody was like really stoked about a sport touring bike for the smaller platform.
Right.
The bags are awesome.
Right.
I would actually probably try to fit those onto an FXR just because of the new technology instead of having old clamshells.
Already in the works.
Yeah, cool. And so the fairing was just kind of like okay, dude, did y'all even try to design anything cool for this? Because it looks like a bikini fairing is what we call it. It looks like a man's bikini.
I've seen a few guys put FXR aftermarket RT fairings on it.
Fairings.
It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good. And
it fits.
we took a different take on it.
I know, I was excited.
And I wish
about
that bike was here. It just went to upholstery yesterday. But the fairing's not on it anyway.
The painter has it.
And that's actually the pictures I was answering. It was pictures of the fairing.
I'm excited for that.
Painting. So that I'll walk you next door and I'll show you the fairing because it's done. The mold's done. So now for us is to decide, now that we've made the mold, for us is to decide how we want to market it, how we want to mount it, because it could fit on a million different things.
Yeah.
But if you've got a narrow glide front end or a wide glide front end or an upside down front end or a lot of rake or a little rake or on and on and on and on, changes the way that fairing mounts every time.
Exactly.
So we have an idea. We came up with some universal stuff that would work on every bike.
Yeah.
Right, to hang it, and we're figuring out where we want to go with that. But the one that we made for this one-off bike I made the fairing, and then I came up after that. I was going to make a mounting system for it, but then have you seen the way the Harleys clip on their little mini street glide frame, the way it just clips on?
Yeah.
So I cut that all out of the original one and grafted it to this one. So this one clips on the same way the stock one does. I couldn't possibly reproduce that for production. There's no way. So we have to answer some of those questions. But that fairing with the Fat Bob light, and then it's got daytime running lights wrapped around it. And then I ended up doing a glove box in it that pops open, and you can stick your stuff in there, and it looks really, when people see it, they'll go, who's that? They'll think it looks like a production fairing. It doesn't look like something that was done aftermarket. It looks really cool.
It's exciting because, like I've been saying, is like when the aftermarket starts to get a hold of these bikes and starts getting their gears turning, and it took a little bit of, I can understand from your position, you need to see some something, a spark in this platform. Do we invest into it?
So you got 11 models that come out, right? You can't just jump in with both feet and make everything 11, for everything, and then 2 years later Harley's discontinuing 3 of them, and so I had to decide from a business owner, from a production, from a manufacturer standpoint, you have to decide, okay, how can we stick our toe in there, right? Start playing around and yet be kind of safe and let some time go by, so we can see what models are going to rise. I know what I love. I love the lowrider. I love that Sport Glide. I don't know if I like the big fat tire ones. I don't know if I like the.
So you know what I love, and I don't know if you've seen this yet, but your Sport Glide, wider front end. I like to say gayishly small rear wheel. I like an 18-inch rear wheel on these bikes. It gives it a nice tough stance. So the Fat Bob and that Sport Glide both have the same width front end.
Right.
The bagger wheels, like a turbine wheel, fits in this stuff.
Bolts right on it, right?
A little, you have to be a bike builder. You have
it. You make some spacers and stuff, right?
Those wheels on those bikes toughens them up so much. Changes everything.
Right.
And
so we immediately did some Fat Bob stuff.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorites. But what we decided first is we hate the turn signals. We hate those big Mickey Mouse looking things and off the back of it, and I hate that dirt bike fender.
Yeah,
I hate that the 9 inches of room between the fender and the rear tire, and those plastic side mounts. Really, afterthought. So we set off. That's what we did over the past, let's say, year. Is we made fixes, and we call them the fixes. We made replacement rear fenders that have Frenched-in license plates and cool little turn signals that bolt on the side. We made a Fat Bob mount that fits under the fender and puts a nice little light in there and a cool plate frame and little lights on it, gets rid of all that shit.
Those lights are nice. So Phil was showing me those lights, and I just picked up another FXR I'm about to start on, and I'm seeing these lights. I'm like, man, I say running lights in the front and the turn signal, they're awesome, and they're so bright and so minute in size. Yep. I'm interested in that.
We've got a boatload. You'll see there's a whole that green kind of angular thing.
Yeah.
That's all vehicles for those bolts.
Okay.
So the product is just that light, right? That's the actual product is the light.
Okay.
And then now what we're doing is we're making vehicles, bullet-shaped bodies. Can you put it on a street glide? Can you put it on a road glide? Can you put it on a Road King? Can you put it on a Softail, Dyna, FXR, Sportster? I got to make a vehicle to put it on everything, and that's been our focus over the past few months here, almost solely, is making all those vehicles, and they're just about done. So all the vehicles are coming out very quick.
Well, I got a road glide I'm gonna need them for. Yeah. My FXR is definitely gonna need them.
we got it all handled. We've got some really neat stuff coming out, and of course our model year, we look towards January is when our distributor catalogs come out. It's when we really start pushing. So this fall is when we really we don't go out to a lot of shows. We kind of quiet up a little bit, and we just spend time creating all the things we need to bring to market.
For people listening here that are, you're going to have a lot of products coming out for the 2020 market, basically. Yeah.
There you go. Most companies are like 3 or 4 or 5, right? Yeah. So that's everything that's everything that we're working on right now. So, and that's top secret, by the way. Don't you be taking any pictures of that. But that's there's a lot. There's a lot of.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it though, man. I'm so glad you're doing it because, like you said before about the whole concept behind the wheel, the SRT wheel. I'm hoping that with you taking the step forward, it's going to inspire some of these other brands that also have a very unique styling to them to start looking at these other bikes as there's not just one motorcycle on the market that you can create products for.
Right.
Like some people are very short-sighted as far as looking at things and realizing that, when the bagger thing slowed down, they put all their chips in that basket and never thought about it changing.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of cut like shops come and go, shops that were chopper guys that evolved to baggers, but then they just didn't have the energy or the enthusiasm or the want to chase into this next market of motorcycling.
So on the other side of this wall is my office.
Yeah.
Right over my desk, there's a big framed picture, and it's railroad tracks, and they split off in a Y.
Yeah.
Right, and the picture says, if you don't change directions, you'll wind up where you're going. And that's been printed in every catalog I've ever published in 30 years. That's been the inside cover of that catalog. Says, if you don't change directions, you'll wind up where you're going. And when you think about that, it's the world, fashion, style, motorcycles, anything you want to apply it to is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And constantly changing, and demographics change, and what are the young guys doing, what are the middle guys doing, what are the older guys doing, and everything comes around, right? Like fashion, right? Bell bottoms are in, bell bottoms are out, and
FXRs are in.
FXR. Right, FXR. 10 years ago you could have bought any of those FXRs for $1,000, right?
Yeah.
So, and I just found a original FXLR,
and
I paid $8,000 for, so just because I wanted it, I knew I was.
It's a beautiful bike.
I knew, and I'll restore it where it's perfect, but I just wanted one, right?
Yeah.
So, and I knew I was overpaying for it, but
had to have
it's
it.
the cleanest one I've seen in a long time. So
93, right?
That's a 94.
94, okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Last year, yeah. So
That's what I got, a 94
right.
lowrider.
So anyway, it's the truth of it. We're constantly evolving, and we're Bagger Nation, and we're actually fighting with right now. God, can we just keep doing Bagger Nation even though we're doing stuff for Softails, and even though we're doing the fixed kit? Do we have to co-brand this stuff and go back to Paul Yaffe originals? Because a guy who is building his sport Softail doesn't want to put a Bagger Nation part on his bike because it says Bagger Nation. Does it matter? I don't know. It's a discussion we're having though, because obviously Paul Yaffe Originals is our original. I can
tap into this because I actually have been talking about this since I've been here, trying to reach out to some of the people. So our listenership is really heavy in the performance motorcycle, oxymoron motorcycle, right? But the FXRs, your Dynas, your Bagger guys, and choppers too, like older vintage stuff. So the problem is, I was actually talking with Shope, and I don't know if this was on air or off air, but it's funny how if you put a big wheel on a bike, this crowd, this listenership, they check out. They don't want to, fuck those things, they're gay. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Got it. But then they'll go look at a Softail, like a 26 Dirty Tail Softail, and be like, that's so badass. I'm like, right. So it's crazy. It's almost like it's stupid is what it is that they just don't want to accept it. It's like kind of like the Republican Democrat thing. It's like, no, they're not even interested to see what it has to say. They just don't. It's like they stop as soon as they hear that you're not on my team. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's very tribalistic and cutthroat thinking in that manner, to where like they won't even, like, they're just sticking their fingers in their ears going la 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 la. They don't want to know. So in my opinion, I would try to separate it from that. That way, because I know your products and I've ran your products on my big wheels before, and I'm excited because I know the quality of stuff that you've always put out there, and I'm excited to see what you're going to bring out for 2020 for my FXR or my Bagger that makes it feel more of the newer age that we're in, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe for me it wouldn't matter because I've been a fan of Bagger Nation since it started, but some 24-year-old kid, that didn't experience
but here's the question with that: is that guy my customer?
Yeah.
That's I don't know if that narrow-minded, my way or the highway, right? My socks are cool and yours aren't, kind of thing. I don't know if that guy's my customer.
It's hard to tell, and I see your point, and I see where you're going at with that. What I'm thinking is it the kind of customers that you've come to have over your years? Right. A lot of those kind of customers don't exist that much anymore. Well,
so here's an interesting thing for you to think about. So people ask me that, so I'm like, how are you going to appeal to the guys, to the Born Free congregation, the one hand-built show? How are you going to appeal to those guys? That whole upcoming thing, they're so different than what you're doing. And I'm like, they're not different than me at all.
And I agree. I agree.
And people will go, what are you talking about? They're in a whole, I said, they're doing exactly what I did when I was their age. It's exactly what I did. I rode that bike, and I rode my bolted together garage built chopper, and anybody on a bagger or anything else was gay, and this is what I did, and I never wore a shirt, and I whatever, and it just was what it was, right? That's who I was, right? I said, but I can't help but look at who I am now, and assume that if they have a love for motorcycles and they have a love for the industry and it stays with them and this becomes their lifestyle, they will evolve just like everybody I grew up with. Yeah. Right? And look what I'm doing now, and I'm sure that 10, 15 years from now, it'll be different again, but it's just a natural evolution that people go through. So sooner or later, I might be gone, and somebody else is doing what I'm doing, but sooner or later they'll attract themselves. If they really love riding, they're not going to ride a hardtail 63 Triumph cross country. It physically is impossible. They just won't do it once they roll into their later 30s and their 40s. Their body won't allow them to do it. And I did it. I did it for years. But now you evolve, or you want to have some luggage, or you want to have, or now you're married. Now you have a kid. Yeah. Your wife wants to go with you, and she doesn't want you to scratch her shoes.
Exactly.
Whatever. It's just so funny, but
dude,
there's a natural evolution process that happens to everybody.
I'm so glad you're saying this, because you just hit the nail on the head with that. Like, you are what is now. It's just that it's smoke and mirrors for a lot of people that are younger and not, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this.
Right.
They get to hear that, you did do that shit and you did do this and you just evolved with the times.
I love what those guys. Susie and I rode a 63 Thunderbird Triumph, right, with a 12 over Sugar Bear Springer on it. That's what we rode to Born Free last year. We rode all over California on it, and it beat the snot out of me, and I had to see the chiropractor for a week after I got home because I'm old. But we had a blast on that bike, and I went there on that bike instead of riding a 26-inch wheel bagger there, not because I was worried about getting there and being laughed at or something. I went there because I wanted to celebrate what those guys are doing, and I love it still, even though I may physically not even be able to do all of that. But it was really fun. It was a really fun trip for us, and the bike we did was super great, and everybody loved it. And
let me ask you this then. So it's very awesome that you know about these shows and these smaller, more niche-based shows, but how do you think going forward in this industry, these kind of shows take over the Sturgis and the Daytonas? Like, do they evolve into that, or you think that it's just so separated?
I don't know. It depends, So I think if you love the motorcycle lifestyle, and you love, my motorcycling started off bar hopping around town or running around LA, going to bike nights or whatever. And I had never been on a cross country trip or ridden to, or gone for a long, even day trip kind of thing like we did in LA or whatever. But as your love for motorcycling, infuses itself with you, right? You want to experience more and more adventures that are related to that, right? And so you can't help but want to reach out farther and expand, right? And you need something that's capable of doing it, right? So it's your choice of machine. I don't see anything wrong with having an old chopper and a sport bike and a bagger and whatever in your stable, and not everybody can afford that, which is another reason I think baggers got so popular, especially for a middle-aged demographic. Is so you can have this radical chopper that was a bagger. So now you can still be cool, you can still get the street credit, you can do all that stuff, but you have one bike in your garage because maybe you can't afford all three, but you got this 26-inch wheel stretch bag in your stereo, whatever. But you and your wife can jump on it and go ride to Sturgis on it. But you also can get home and clean it up and take it to bike night, and everybody else thinks it's totally cool. You can kind of have the best of both worlds on one bike. It was taking if you want to call it this, taking an older guy's bike and making it cool, right? So
it's a well put way of saying it, man.
But I have all kinds of bikes, and now I can afford having more than one, But if I'm gonna, if me and Miguel from Lane Splitters are going to go ride to Payson, you better believe I'm going to be on my Dyna, with my FXR fairing and my 15-inch shocks, and because I know how we're going to ride that day. And I want to be on my Dyna, and me and him are going to go shred that day. If Susie's coming, well, now I got a different story. She's not going to like that. She's that seat slopes backwards. She's going to feel like she's falling off. So I'm going to take a touring bike and make sure she's comfortable and has a nice day with me because I want to have an enjoyable day with her. we're if we're doing something else, if I'm cruising over to the car show or something like that, maybe it's the chopper.
Yeah.
I take, because it just that mood I'm in, because that's what I'm doing that day. That fits right into that mood, right? So, and they all have their place.
Yeah, they do. They really do, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So, we'll start wrapping this up. So basically, moving forward, we've kind of talked about like the products releases for next year. Are you planning on still making a presence at Sturgis, like vending wise? Or are you still just thinking about going as just to be out there riding around having a fun? So these events and stuff, because I've seen the Paul Yaffe, the Bagger Nation thing in almost every Easy Rider V-Twin Expo over the years. You know what I mean? So I see how you've traveled and been everywhere. So
yeah, we do get out a lot.
Yeah.
So I think we're trying to lighten up the tour thing a little bit, trying to focus more. I wish we had the energy to go everywhere, but it gets expensive. The shows have changed, so they're not quite as commercially successful sometimes. But what we do is we've found over the years that we kind of create these partnerships with people. So Daytona, we have a partnership with the racetrack there, and we do our Baddest Bagger show there in March, and we do it in October. October's a small show. It's 25,000, 35,000 people. March is 500,000 plus, right? So going out to March and being there for 12 days and setting up our big tent and having our whole crew go out there and opening up a store there for 12 days is worth the effort of crossing the entire country. Yeah. Doing it for a weekend is impossible. So we go and do our Baddest Bagger show there in March, and we set up our show, and we're there the whole week doing our thing. In October, which is next month, I'll fly out. Well, Thursday night I'll get there. Friday I'll do the Baddest Bagger show. Saturday morning I'm coming home. Won't be there commercially. We have distributors that'll represent our product and stuff, but we won't have a footprint there. Sturgis, we opened up a store in Deadwood.
Okay.
Right? It's Deadwood Custom Cycle.
I saw that this year.
Jason Mook owns that store, a longtime friend of mine. And we got involved together doing it, and then we've opened a bar. We've opened the Monkey Bar, which is on premise. It's part of it.
I got pulled over right there.
And so we go and kind of inhabit his store. It's a really cool 120-year-old building. So this year, we did installs. We pre-sold all the Monkey Bar installs, sold out the whole week.
Yeah.
Basically, couldn't have done anything else. A couple of guys came in with dead batteries. Me and Sean were back there changing their batteries out, just trying to help them. But and it's a small shop, but we just want to hang out and show our stuff and be there, and doing it in Deadwood in that type of style is really cool. And then we go to Ballard's and still do our Baddest Bagger show, and that's where everything started.
Yeah. So
we'll never not have Baddest Bagger in Sturgis at Mike Ballard's place.
As far as the Baddest Bagger, what do you think about like starting to evolve it into like the new bagger things that are going on? Because
it's on the table.
Yeah.
So we added this year. So things change this year, obviously.
I mean, it could be like you've seen Anchorman, right? The movie. So when all the different networks get into the alley and then guns come out and all,
Got it.
So,
it's for us. It's not like that. I know some
Yeah,
other
for
people kind of react that way. So, but we added an SRT/performance class this year, and it celebrates. Our SRT kits are 1,000% performance built.
Yeah.
That's what they're made for. They are the best riding bikes I have ever ridden. Unbelievable what you can do on those things in a canyon. So I'm not building bikes to do burnouts and wheelies on. Not that I don't appreciate watching a good burnout or a wheelie, but that's not what I do. That's not, to me, that's not, I don't get up in the morning and want to get on my bike so I can go shred it. And then up and down the street, I get on it because I want to take a trip, right? So different philosophy of motorcycling. I'm going to guess those stunt guys like to ride too, and like to ride cross country. And I'm sure if we all took off on a trip to Sturgis, we'd have a great time.
Exactly.
And they'd be way more entertaining when we got to the end of the day that day than I would be, right? I'll sit and watch them entertain. So that SRT class is just a performance class. And then I want to group that with these guys that are doing the performance baggers, who are doing upside down front ends, who are doing taller shocks and piggybacks and increased braking and shorter rakes and all that stuff, right? And that I certainly like the style of it.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I'm not sure exactly the whats and whys of it, because I mean, I'll gladly jump on my 26-inch wheel bike with that bike.
I'm a big ambassador for that generation or that thing that's been moving across. And I I can answer a lot of questions about it. I can tell you kind of a couple different perspectives of what people think.
So here's my question: is does that bike really do something after all that work that my bike can't do, or is it really about the rider?
The thing that I feel like a lot of people, it's a 100% the rider. So the thing is that I'm trying to find the best way to word this, but there is a visual aspect to this style of bike that some people have yet to want to add. They want to say that it just looks cool.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Have the gold shocks in the back and things like that.
I totally concur with that. I agree. I think it does.
It's a look, and I wish people would accept the fact that we've grown accustomed to loving this look of a bike.
I embrace that and love it.
Yeah. Right. So now, as far as me, I have full Öhlins. I don't have upside down forks. I got traditional, but full Öhlins drop in, everything. I have a very nice setup bike, and as somebody that talks about it on here, I went into it naively thinking, okay, I'm going to throw these shocks on it and I'm going to rail these corners, right? I'm from Texas, dude. We got 5 corners in the whole state of Dallas.
So you don't even have a mountain.
We don't have any mountains. So I'm not accustomed to riding in that kind of environments. Now, I have ridden almost. I still have quite a few, but I've almost ridden every badass thing in the country, except for Payson and Jerome I've been hearing about all fucking week.
Yeah.
But going through there, it's like I naively was buying things for this bike, and T-bars do give me more like mental control and
it changes the position.
Yeah.
I get it.
The seat, the way it's set up, it puts me a little bit far forward and it gets me more centered on the bike. I do feel that mid controls really, as I'm starting to take these corners a lot harder, because I'm more on my thighs hurt because I'm kind of more on my feet a little bit. So picking up my left foot to click down or shift forward like that mid control allows me to keep my pressure on my foot.
You gotta have it there.
Yeah, and I can still operate the gears and stuff. Sure. As far as the suspension goes, it has helped me and made the bike perform better, but it's only, I've always told a lot of people, even before I had the suspension, that most people can't outride the stock suspension. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when everybody and I've been fighting the whole thing because there's certain people that feel like the only performance bagger, you have to have an inverted front end. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that should dictate the genre of bike. I think that it's more of we've had these discussions. It's more of a style of riding these bikes, a visual representation of these parts and these kind of things. And so I've been telling people and bringing people on this podcast and saying, look, go take a Ride Smart class. Like, go to a class where you're on a track. You can take your bagger out there and learn corner and exit speed and trail braking and all these different things that make you a better rider, and then apply it with that suspension and then see the full picture.
Right. Yeah, you can. Right, if you can handle what you're on.
Yeah. But if you don't have time for that, don't feel like you can't say, you know what, man, I just think this shit looks cool.
No, I got it. That's where I get into that's when I use the word oxymoron is the okay, so you've done $60,000 worth of work to your bike or whatever, and I'll just gladly get on my BMW and I'll spank you in any canyon we get into.
Exactly.
And it's stock.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you built a bike that can keep up with my stock bike, and again, not taking anything away from that performance market and what it is, because I love the movement.
Yeah.
And I love it. Just lighten up a little bit. Let's all have fun with it. Yeah.
What I'm excited about, and I don't know and I think people will understand that are into the performance baggers, but I'm excited about you making parts that I can, apply towards this style of bike now. And that's what I'm more happy about, seeing as all this performance shit is growing in popularity, and it's giving you, there's a shining opportunity to apply my vision of products and style and parts onto this market. And I'm excited about that. Because we don't have a lot of shit out there.
But if you think, even looking at my baggers, even if you look at my baggers, I mean, I look at my baggers compared to like the bikes that are in my shows look nothing like the bikes I build. My bikes are so conservative compared to those, but they're conservative for a reason. They're conservative because there's performance considered and usability considered. So my bikes don't lay frame. My bike, you look at the way the controls are set up and the handlebar position and so on. They're always built with this every bike that comes out of here has to be able to run across country, no problem, without even a consideration.
Exactly.
And that's always been maybe my leash, or what I do. I don't build bikes to win shows. I build bikes to enhance somebody's riding experience. You know what I mean? And if it can go in and win a ride-in show or whatever, that's great too. But I'm not going to sacrifice reliability, or I'm not going to sacrifice practicality for for the attention. You know what I mean?
The other thing that I've always heard over the years, because even when I was into sport bikes and I used to put extended swing arms and 240 kits on these things.
See, I think that stuff looks great too. I love the look of that.
So it's the same thing that took place, right?
Right.
That became the big wheel bagger thing, because all the guys that were ripping corners and wearing full leathers and doing that were like, why'd you do that to the bike? You can't even enjoy it anymore. And it's like, what I've been having to teach myself and not get caught up in the tribalism of these type of like niches and genres and hate everybody else, is that we all buy bikes for fucking whatever the reason we want to buy a bike for. Like I didn't buy my bike just so that I can get approval from you, and I think that a lot of people kind of do that sometimes.
Yeah, I got you. Sure.
And so
that's just trends.
It's trends. It's like
it's fashion,
man. Like this look cool. I want to feel it. I want to experience it.
Right.
And I saw the big wheel bagger. I saw yours. I was like, man, this is cool. I experienced that. Certain things about not the bikes, but maybe the people in some of the areas kind of turned me off of it, and I wanted to get away. But now I'm sitting here in this scene, in these Dynas and these FXRs and these performance baggers, and I'm kind of like trying to not allow this scene to become as toxic as some other areas of the big wheel scene in that area got. So I'm trying to educate people. Like, look, think about this, man. Like, it's all motorcycling. We all have to keep this industry going. We all have to keep money coming into it. The innovation has to come. Everything can't be just this negativity and talking shit and big dicking each other all over the place. It just doesn't go anywhere.
I'm so out of that. I'm just so tunnel visioned on what we do. I don't experience a lot of that. So, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of different styles of riding, and I enjoy many of them.
Yeah.
So it's something interesting to think about too. I'm sure these guys go look at a new BMW touring bike and be like, no way. But if they threw their leg over it and put it through some of the paces that those things can do, it's just it allows you to do something that you can't do on a Triumph chopper, and it's a whole interesting different side of motorcycling. And I'll tell you, I get on my Road King SRT bike and I ride it a certain way. It's a certain type of riding it's meant for, and a certain thing I do, and I ride it a certain way. I get on my Dyna, right? And I become a different guy.
Yeah.
Right? I dress different. I feel different. My hand on that throttle, I'm just I'm constantly wanting to stand the thing up, and I ride differently, right?
Yeah.
And so but that's what those bikes are built for. They're built for a different experience. So experiencing them all is truly, you're limiting yourself if it's because there's so many different kinds of riding that are totally fun.
The crazy thing is, like, you've been to Born Free, so you see that you go to Born Free and the half of the show is Dynas and FXRs and performance oriented bikes. And then next to it is old, very nice bikes, but
crazy stuff, right?
No different handling or rideability than a big wheel bagger.
Right.
And then so you got to figure, okay, what is the disconnect? Why can't this crowd really coexist with this crowd? Like, why can't Dynas, FXRs, and this crowd hang out with a bunch of bagger guys at a full throttle, but can hang out with a bunch of kind of hippie kind of witchcraft
kind of guy with a frame that's sticking up in the air like that, and his straight girder front end, and his handlebars are like this, right? And that bike has no trail, it has no rake, and when he turns, the whole thing wants to, and he's constantly finding, but when I see that guy and he built that bike and he loves it, and I have to assume that the ride that he's experiencing on that bike, he loves. Yeah. He loves that muscle. He loves that fighting it down the road. He loves the
struggle of it. Yeah.
Whatever it is, he's got to like that, right? Or he'd do something else, right? But that's what they love, But it's it's a different style of riding. He might love that day, but he might go home and get on his Dyna.
Yeah, exactly.
Do his whole, he might go get on a sport bike and do his whole different thing. He might have can you imagine a guy having that bike at a BMW sitting next to each other?
Dude, the crazy thing is that, like, a lot of people, it's been a big influx of people that have gotten into the adventure market.
Right.
Even before Harley announced they were going to do a bike, I was seeing a lot of dudes going from baggers to adventure bikes,
right?
Because of their love for
riding. How many guys got dirt bikes? In the garage, totally different thing. You know what I mean? We get out and rip them all the time, but it's a completely different thing, right? Yeah. So and the ego thing is totally different, and the feeling is totally different, and the emotion is completely different. Yeah. So.
Well, I don't know. I'm excited. I think this was a very good podcast, man. I really thank you for fucking wisdom, man. That's all it is, dude. You don't have more than 35 years working on bikes, and you can't. I knew that sitting here we were gonna get some insight, and I'm so glad to actually know how much more involved in all the genres of motorcycling that you're in, like the Born Frees and those things, because.
Sure, love them.
It's a good point, man. You're the originator of the big wheel thing,
right?
But yet you're still one of the most original bikers there is.
It's a lifestyle. It's a love, right?
Yeah.
You have to explain it. You wouldn't understand, right?
Exactly.
The oldest bumper sticker in the world. Right?
Well, hey, I appreciate it. We're gonna wrap this up. Everybody can catch your website.
BaggerNation.com.
And same thing on Instagram and Facebook. Bagger Nation.
Bagger Nation.
Cool. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate the time.
Awesome. And there you have it, man. Mr. Yaffe. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on and being who you are in this industry for the last almost 30 years now, I guess you would say. So anyway, I also want to thank Simpson Motorcycle Helmets on Instagram and SimpsonMotorcycleHelmets.com. Dream Rides John on Instagram and TeamDreamRides.com, and Fast Life at checkout for 10% off. Kevin at Big Bear Choppers on Instagram and BigBearPerformance.com. Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram and PaintHuffer.com, and FastLife12 for 10% off. Thundermax EFI on Instagram and ShopTmax.com. Lexan Moto on Instagram and LexanMotorcycle.com, and FastLife for 15% off. Thank you guys again for joining us, and I believe we have... Who is next? Oh, we have L Bugs. He is a custom painter in Phoenix in the lowrider scene for many, many years. Very respected dude in our industry, and really excited to have him on along with, I think we had, who did we have on with that? I think we had Hypnotic Air on, Matt Andrews, and of course Paint Huffer again. So this will be a paint-centric podcast coming out next Monday, and then following that will be Thursday with FXR Division. Really excited to let all those out and wrap up this month of podcasts, which has been a lot. I'm going to try to keep up the momentum with SEMA coming up. We have scheduled so far, we have Taylor Schultz. We have, I want to say, Justin from FXR Division and Brian from TPJ, who are good friends, and we'll do a little podcast together. And then Brian from Clockwork. So we got a couple lined up, and we're going to try to line up a few more, and really come back from SEMA with a handful. Try to capitalize on this opportunity to be around a lot of these talented and skilled individuals. So anyway, thank you guys for your support, and share this shit on your social media platforms and tell your mom about it, and your sister and your brother, and just whatever. Thank you guys. Peace.